We are broadcasting live.
So good morning, everyone. This is the meeting of the Council of the Town of Mono held on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026 at 9 a.m. This meeting is being conducted both in chambers and by means of electronic participation as permitted by Section 238, subsection 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended and the Town of Mono Procedural Bylaw 2020-42. Residents can either join this meeting as it occurs or view it later on YouTube. We do have a quorum, and just a reminder for those present, the emergency exits are in the rear of the council chamber. Members of council can declare pecuniary interest at this point or at any point in the course of the meeting followed up in writing. And Councillor Davey is going to do the Indigenous land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Your Worship. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the Town of Mono resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Tionotante, the Attawandaran, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the Town of Mono resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions, and it is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources.
Thank you. And we have a proclamation today with regard to Canadian Multiculturalism Day.
Excuse me, Your Worship.
Sorry?
Can we just go through the accepting the agenda in minutes?
Oh, of course. I tend to run ahead of myself. There we are. So I have a motion that we, if I can find it here. I have a motion that Council approves the agenda of session 11, 2026 as circulated. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Davey. Any opposition to that? Seeing none, that motion passes. I have a motion that Council approves the minutes of session 10, 2026 as circulated. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Capes. Any issues? Seeing none, that motion passes. Now I have, as indicated, a motion or a proclamation for Canadian Multiculturalism Day, whereas Canada is a thriving, diverse nation that reflects on its history in efforts to strengthen its societal unity, and whereas the Town of Mono recognizes the numerous cultures that its residents represent and contribute to the economic and social advancement of this municipality, and whereas the Town of Mono welcomes cultural expressions that enrich our community to create thriving and inclusive neighborhoods that treat all members of our community with equity, equality, and respect, and whereas the Town of Mono remains committed to supporting our cultural diversity and inclusion through education, historical, recreation, and business opportunities for all residents, I therefore declare on behalf of Council that June 27th, I should say, 2026 is Multiculturalism Day in the Town of Mono. That brings us to public question period. Are there any members of the audience who have any questions for Council? Oh, if you could come forward and just turn on the mic and and just press the button there and we'll be able to hear you.
Can you hear this? Is this good? Yes. So, Stephen Russell, yeah, we met a few weeks ago, and we appreciate my wife and I coming and talking with us. But we're just wondering about the enforcement of the existing bylaws that are in place. I live on French Drive in the residential section of it, and the amount of commercial traffic is unbelievable. Like I always heard about it, but I went to work at 5:30 in the morning and came back at 4:30 in the afternoon. But now that I'm retired, It is unbelievable during the day, the amount of commercial vehicles up and down that road. It's epidemic. Like transport trucks, we've discussed first student school buses driving through empty, and I'm not exaggerating, probably 40 buses a day up and down that street, empty. They sound like transport trucks. They have the same engines, the same tires, so it's an annoyance, and they don't abide by the speed limit, not even close. And like I say, transport trucks, straight trucks, tow trucks, unbelievable amount of tow trucks now. That yard is at where the aquarium place used to be. There's a tow truck yard in there now. So I think every accident in Dufferin County, the victim vehicle comes by my house in the back of a tow truck. Because I guess that's the storage yard. It's just, I don't know. I mean, that's supposed to be a residential neighborhood, and it's not. It's a feeder road for an industrial complex. I mean, that's my view of it.
So Stephen, it was good to meet with you and your wife on site, and I saw for myself the kind of traffic that was occurring, and it was a weekend, not a weekday.
Yeah.
I have asked our I'm sorry, my watch is talking to me. I have asked our CAO to make a phone call to the bus company because you're bearing the brunt of the fact that they do not want to go out the second line to the second line to get onto Highway 9. The road is essentially, in my view, an arterial road in disguise in a residential neighborhood.
Yes.
Can I just ask staff how we're doing on the issue of enforcement and discussions with the bus company?
Is that on? Your Worship, so yes, I have a message. We just spoke the other day with respect to the bus company, so I'm expecting to have that conversation here shortly. Get them over to second line for their fleet, except for I know there's one or two buses that do pick up on French Drive, but I'll work with that. With respect to enforcement of speed, that would fall under, of course, the Highway Traffic Act, right? And the truck bylaw also falls, I believe, under the Highway Traffic Act. But we have in the past circulated a letter to the businesses. I think it might have helped for a little while, but I wouldn't hesitate to revisit that letter to the businesses as well.
And just going to ask Matt to comment, and then I'll turn it over to council. Matt, I understand we've installed some speed bumps on French.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, we've installed 2 speed humps. I'm hopeful that that's helped move
has
traffic
helped.
a little bit, and some delineators as well.
It has helped. One of them is, well, almost in front of my yard, but, which is fine, I'm not complaining. But they're gonna come down in probably September, October, and then it's gonna be right back to what it always is, 60, 70 kilometers in the 40. And I'm not exaggerating, it's bad. It really is. And it's not all the industrial, it's the residents that live there, but the speed bumps do help. I suggested to the mayor maybe a couple 3-way stops. I don't know what, because there is no stop signs between second and first line. It's just a roller coaster. You got hills and curves, and they pick up speed and they don't slow down. And we've lived there 13, 14 years, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse.
Linda?
Thanks very much. I'm just wondering, I'm looking at the map because I'm not that familiar with that part. So it really is it really runs parallel to Highway 9, so they
Yes.
are avoiding Highway 9.
Yes,
So did
absolutely.
we not just have some construction on that part on Highway 9? Wasn't there some refurbishment or something going on there in the last while?
Well, that I think is further west.
Further west, is
A
it?
little bit. It's just as you,
Because I don't see,
just as you come by the hospital, there was some construction there, but that doesn't really affect where we live.
it just doesn't make sense why they want to go that way as opposed to turning
Well,
at
they just-
a light.
Well, a first student uses it to get to the light instead of going out second line. I mean,
Right,
that's-
but I'm
that's
talking about
obvious
like
what
the
they're-
transport trucks are going from A to B. They're not neighborhood people who are.
No, oh, no.
Who are coming
no.
out and.
No, we understand if
preferring.
somebody's pouring concrete and they're putting a pool in or something, we understand a concrete truck and garbage trucks. We understand all that.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound like the
No,
trucks
no,
that
no.
you've got going
No.
through. So they're just avoiding that piece of Highway 9 is the plan? So
Yeah.
if we put more
Well,
obstacles on.
I
it.
think they come down and use the light to get onto Highway 9.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly
But
what
where are they
they're
coming
doing.
through, though?
They're
That's-
coming through the residential area to get to the light.
Well, so we need to have bumps further into the residential.
Bumps aren't gonna
so-
matter, they'll come over them slow, but they'll still use the shortcut. Like, they put the speed bumps in, that there's still as many vehicles coming through, they're just coming through a bit slower.
Well, which at least if.
It's better, but it's just the volume of vehicles coming out of the industrial area.
But if they're trying to do, my thought would be logically that if they're trying to make it a cut through and a route that's better, faster, whatever, that the speed bumps, yes, they would maybe still come for a while, but then they would be irritated by it and find some other route, no? Anyway, it's very interesting.
And I suggested to the mayor, you have a sign on first line. It says no trucks, and then underneath it says local deliveries only. I mean, I hate to be critical, but that sign's useless. It's at least 150 feet from the intersection past the Toyota dealership driveway. It needs to be up at the end, like up by Highway 9. So
No,
like
don't
before
come
the
this
truck driver even sees it, he's around the corner.
Right,
And he's got nowhere to go now. He might as well follow through with what he's doing.
right.
So, and then in local deliveries only, like he could have a Allied Threaded Products, which is an industry past the sign coming the other way, but the driver doesn't know that. He doesn't know the boundaries of that local deliveries only.
Right.
Like he might think, well, I'm going to Allied Threaded Products on French Drive, it's a local delivery. So I think you just put a sign there that says no trucks and a weight limit on it. And eliminate the local deliveries, because if you're, like I used to drive a truck, if you have a bill of lading, you're allowed to go into that area. If you have proof that you're allowed to be there, it's
Right.
okay to go in.
So that's where the beginning of your question was, what about enforcement?
Yeah,
Right.
but I don't think we have the proper signage for enforcement. Like I've done a lot of research on it, and you have to have a weight limit also. We just have a sign with a truck with a line through it. There's no weight limit. And I noticed driving up here, if you go straight through on this one at Camilla, there's a sign on the post that has a weight limit. It's pretty faded, but it's there.
So I guess that's a question again for Public Works with respect to, are there limitations on where you can limit weights? Is it the road, is it the type of road, or is it the area that you don't want them driving in, right? Because that's a different thing. I always thought the road weight limits and so on, like on the gravel roads where there's no, for the safety or the maintenance of the road.
Yeah, so the load restriction sign out here would have been for reduced load season.
Okay.
The one down on French, the location on First Line, was just past the Toyota dealership because the trucks were turning around in there and going into Toyota
Yeah, but
quite regularly. I tried to get it with MTO to have the no truck signs on Highway 9 with a arrow, left and right arrow on the approaching signs to First Line.
Yeah.
But MTO wouldn't entertain it. We could revisit looking at moving the signs closer to Highway 9, but we'd also have to talk to MTO to allow them within the right-of-way.
So if there's any problem with MTO, would me going to the provincial member of parliament, would that? Because like I said, I'm not being critical. You've obviously tried, which is good, but
Yeah,
I mean, you got to admit that sign's pretty.
It's there, it's
there, but it's-
enforcement too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said.
And yeah, we get a lot of transport trucks coming from that. We get more coming from First Line than we do the other way. And another thing, when you turn onto French Drive from First Line, they go up on the sidewalk on the one side, they have to go over into the other line. It's too tight to turn a transport truck there, but they come down anyway. Like, the intersection I'm talking about. And anyway, I can go on and on for hours, but I don't want to. I know we have other things to do, but I just want to know if, we're actually thinking about doing some things to remediate the.
Well, and I've spoken to Matt about increasing the size of that truck sign.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty small, frankly.
Yeah.
It may be the standard size that the manual says is okay, but the message obviously is not being received.
Yeah.
But thank you. The issue of enforcement is something that the council will pursue with our Director of Public Works and with the OPP as well.
Yeah.
Because we have a difficulty having a bylaw officer enforce a situation where there's a moving vehicle. It really has to be the police that.
Yeah, no,
that
I
does it.
understand that. And again, I've seen lots of stuff been working out in the front garden and stuff. I haven't seen an OPP officer. I mean, you could set up a radar there and shoot fish in a barrel.
Okay.
It would be that easy.
Well, I saw it for myself, and I agree with her.
And just like say, the lack of enforcement is just, there is no enforcement.
My sense is that the problem is trucks are going along the French line to access the First French Street, I should say, to go along, to access the first line to get onto Highway 9 because there's a light there.
Yeah, that would be one reason, yeah.
That's the main reasons, I think.
Yeah,
If there was a
probably
light
is.
at the second line and Highway 9, they go off there and they wouldn't go through French Drive.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, so that's something that we've talked about. It's been a part of a discussion with respect to a possible development on the second line. It's a hard sell, but I think that's probably is the best solution.
Yeah, but I mean, that road was built by the subdivision for the subdivision, and it's just become a commercial road,
Understand?
and, I don't know, we all know there's a problem, we just have to figure out how to fix it, I think is the issue. And another thing, the car dealerships, guy across the road I was talking to him the other night, he bought a new vehicle, he went to 7 different dealerships on Highway 9, and every single one of them test drive, when he test drove the vehicle, the salesman took him along French Drive.
And that's been a problem on the first line as well, people going down the first line and then coming back
Yeah.
up the first line.
Yeah,
And just when you think that you've got that under control, you find that you haven't.
yeah, so,
But thank you for
Yeah.
raising this, and we'll stay on it.
yeah, but if you can, sorry, Matt, if you can ask about that sign, I would, I don't know if it's gonna help or not, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah. And
Indeed.
even if, with the MTO, the ideal place to put one is up in the street light. You see that all over the place. Where the no trucks turning is actually up on the stoplight.
Yeah, sometimes the traffic manuals say that one shouldn't do that, but I agree with you that occasionally it's done.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Marcia, do you have anything else to add?
Thanks again.
Okay.
Elaine, do you have a question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you're going through this over and over and over and over and over again for however many years. So 2 things. One of them is, can we not have OPP sit there? Can we not have a special duty police officer to sit there and give out tickets? I'm not sure how that works in terms of what the signage says and what people can be charged with if they go through there unlawfully. And I know that this was a conversation way back when that subdivision was built. Why can we not close access at that end of French Drive?
Well, I think what you may be referring to is the possibility of having a short stretch of French Drive connecting the subdivision to the industrial area, maybe making that one way so that traffic is forced to go out to the second line.
Okay, yeah, yes, thank you, John. So that traffic cannot go in and out into that industrial edge of French Drive.
Well, I don't think there's any problem going out for the residents of the subdivision. I think the problem is the industrial traffic coming into the residential area.
Yes, from
Sure,
the
and it's
east.
traveling through the subdivision. So how do you shut that route off?
Well, I
And
think,
maybe it would cause an inconvenience to the residents because they no longer have that ability to exit that way. But I don't know if if the bigger issue is all the truck traffic or the residents having access to go out either way. So I would leave that to our citizen there to share thoughts about, but I think the access from the commercial to the residential should be closed.
well, that's one option. Can be done in several different ways.
Yeah, well, that would be the ultimate option, but. that's,
Indeed. Okay, we're going to pursue all avenues here. And Councillor Capes raises an interesting question about if the OPP are unable or too busy to have somebody down there, we could go with a paid duty officer. We do have money in the budget for extra policing. But we can talk to the clerk about that, who's responsible for that kind of determination.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Any other questions in the gallery? Ed?
Good morning, everyone. It's been a while since I've been here. I have a few comments to make with regard to the arsenic
Your
removal
worship, I did
situation.
not hear the speaker introduce themselves, sorry.
Sorry, Ed Craker. Oh, sorry, you're right, Ed Craker. I live on Airport Road. I want to make a few comments and then have a question with regard to the arsenic removal situation, or the project that's being covered in by delegation this morning. And my comments are not on the content of the delegation, but first of all, my comments are based on, I guess, primarily my own professional experience. For those who may not be familiar, I am an environmental engineer. I've spent my career designing water and wastewater treatment systems, and including 18 years with Stantec in the head office. And in fact, I do have specific experience with arsenic. I had a team that designed an arsenic removal system and saw it successfully operate. And I don't claim to know everything there is to know about arsenic or water quality, but I have followed the arsenic situation with those wells over the years, and I think it was about 4 years ago, Mike was very kind and sent me the whole file on what's been done to date. And I just want to make one overall comment. In my opinion, I think we need to really look seriously at whether we really do have an arsenic problem. There's no long-term evidence that we have high arsenic concentrations in the groundwater. Yes, there have been some grab samples over the years that have shown levels that are close to what's called the drinking water limit. And by the way, the guidelines, the Canadian guidelines for drinking water have established the 10 micrograms per liter, which has now been reduced down to 5 micrograms per liter, not on the basis of health effects, but based on what the technology can actually realistically remove from the groundwater. And I don't want to play the importance of arsenic either, or downplay the importance of arsenic. Arsenic can be a health problem, but it's also quite well known, and it's right in the drinking water guidelines, that our main sources of arsenic, or our main source of arsenic in our societies is our food. In fact, we get more arsenic, far more arsenic from our food than we do from water. But it seems like I think it's probably been forced more by the province than anything. And my observation, looking at the data from the past, is that it's been a bullying and shaming tactic that's been used by bureaucrats. And the ministry is saying your monitoring shows that you've had a few high arsenic levels. What are you going to do about it, town of Mono? And I think we need to take a serious look. I think we've got a lot more important issues, and I'm not saying this because I don't live in that area. I fully appreciate, as I said, the importance of arsenic in water, but I don't believe we have a serious arsenic problem that needs to be addressed by spending millions of dollars.
You said you had a question. And,
Yes, so
and
my
then
question.
I'm going to defer some of this to the presentation of Burnside's.
Yeah, my question is, what is the process? We're going to have the delegation this morning, the presentation, which, from what I've seen of it, basically assumes we are going to do something. We need to do something, and the question is, which of the options are we going to take? So my question going forward is, will there be an opportunity to actually go back to the basic question of, do we need to do anything? What is the process moving forward following the delegation this morning? That's my question.
Well, I think we need to hear from our experts, and then we need to discuss that as a council and get the best advice possible. But as I understand the presentation from Burnside's, arsenic, dealing with arsenic per se is only one possible way of addressing the issue. There are other options on the table as well.
I agree, but what I'm getting at is I question whether we need to do anything at all. That's my proposal. We need to seriously look at whether we do anything. I understand some of the options are pipelining and so on from Cardinal Woods and so on, but I'm saying, why spend any money at all?
Doing nothing is very frequently a favorite approach of government.
Well, I think it's the rational approach.
It's always on the table, let's put it that way.
I think it's the rational approach.
Can I say, thank you for bringing this angle to today's discussion that we're going to have when we have our presentation. But it is an option. One of the first options in the presentation is to do nothing. It's there. But it's also a broader question with respect to why do we have to do anything, in that we are going, you might have noticed that everybody's telling everybody that that we're going to have more people and we need to be prepared for it. And so the actual water capacity is an issue. Having the arsenic, I think, from the presentation and from previous debriefings about it all, having the arsenic and trying to do some of the removal things will increase our capacity. So that's one thing. But even if you didn't do that, and so our need is going to increase in time. And so that needs to be addressed. So this is wrapped up, in my view, this is kind of wrapped up in the same thing, that you're right, the government keeps changing the numbers. And so like let's settle on a number, right? Because had we acted knee-jerk when we first found out there was a problem, we may very well have spent some money on something, or some town somewhere may have spent some money on something that wasn't going to now suit the new number, right? So. So I appreciate your question, but this will be a big discussion, I think, today.
Thanks, Ed. You brought up a very important question. Do we need to do anything? So tell us a little bit more about your thoughts. And I understand a little bit from the medical side of things, the problems with arsenic. And I know that countries such as Bangladesh, which have high arsenic levels, also have high incidence of cancer and other problems. And so that the thought is that the arsenic level in the water there is the problem, and that there's a definite relationship. And you're suggesting that maybe the relationship is not as good as we are assuming, and that we get most of our arsenic from food anyway. Elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts on the levels of arsenic.
Okay, well, I hadn't planned to get too technical, but I'll try to keep it as simple as I can. One of the mechanisms of arsenic removal is precipitation with iron. In fact, the system that our team designed involved using ferric sulfate to remove large concentrations of arsenic from a mine tailings effluent.
I've read about it.
But so the historical data from the wells here have shown that there were few, and it's all grab samples that have been taken, which is fine. But a few grab samples throughout the year demonstrated levels in the range of 10 micrograms per liter. What can typically happen is there is iron in the groundwater. So when you get oxidation of that iron, the arsenic very readily precipitates out with the iron. It'll collect on the well screens, or it'll collect in the piping. And then when somebody cracks a valve to collect a sample, you'll get some particles breaking loose from the walls of the pipe, is typically what happens. And then that sample gets submitted and it shows a high level of arsenic. But there hasn't been a program of continuous sampling from those wells that has demonstrated we have an arsenic problem in the wells, in the groundwater itself, in the aquifer.
So what would you recommend in order for us to establish a baseline?
Well, one option to establish a baseline is to do continuous sampling over a period of time. I mean, it wouldn't require a year of sampling, but say a month of not just grab sampling, but having an automatic sampler in the line.
So that all of us understand, what do you mean by grab sampling?
Okay, a grab sample is, let's say in your house, you want to submit a sample for bacteria. You open the tap, you let it run for a bit, and then you stick a bottle underneath and you grab the sample and you submit that. You can have automatic sampling where every hour, for example, as in a flowing line, it grabs a sample of the water. It's used a lot for sewage effluents, for example, where you want to get an average concentration of effluent concentrations. You can do the same thing with water supply, collecting a continuous sample.
One of the things that struck me, as I've been watching this for a dozen years, is that the arsenic levels are gradually going up. And these are probably dissolved arsenic being dissolved out of the rocks. And therefore, it's an increasing problem. This is one of our concerns. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, I haven't seen that data. I mean, you may be right. I haven't seen the data that I saw, and I haven't looked at it for a while. I could say it was about 4 years ago when Mike sent me the data. I didn't see anything like that, an upward trend in the arsenic levels.
Could I ask Matt to comment? Am I correct about that? That arsenic levels have been going up over the years?
Thanks, Councilor McDill. So we do take samples quarterly. We're required to take sampling, and it's in
Right.
all the trends have been in the reporting that we bring to council every year, annual and summary reports. And it's been consistent. We've had spikes. We do flush and sample regularly. And the ministry, it's still on their watch to make sure that we're doing something to address the arsenic. The current level for arsenic is 10 micrograms per liter. The federal guidelines guidance document is 5 micrograms. The province is yet to adopt that. But I think that the Burnside could probably answer the questions when they first come up to present their delegation.
My question was really about the levels over time. Has they been increasing over the last 10, 20 years?
I don't think they're necessarily increasing. We had to take Coles Wells 1 offline in 2017 because it was going, it was escalating. It went consistently above 10 micrograms per liter. And arsenic's hard to predict because it's naturally occurring in the rock. So Dwight will be able to speak to it a little bit more when he comes up, but it's hard to predict, and this is the reason why. It could go higher, it could go lower. But over time, we've found it's been fairly stable around the 6 to 8 micrograms per liter mark, which triggers the ministry to contact us and ask us what we're going to do to address it. If you asked any person that was in the drinking water system that had arsenic, any arsenic in their water, I'm sure they would want the arsenic out of the water. So it's something that we've been looking into for a long, long time. The trends and the numbers have shown that, you know, they are fairly stable, but they could go up, they could go down, but they have been fairly stable in anywhere from 6 to 10 kind of mark.
So I'm going to have to go on to other questions, but thank you, and stay tuned for the presentation. Is there anyone else in the audience who has a question for us? Any submitted questions, Fred?
We have no questions that were submitted in advance, Your Worship.
Anyone online? Seeing none. Oh, sorry, I do see one there. No, it's Burnside's. Anyways, to our delegation, Dwight, and if you'd like to, if the two of you would like to come forward, and do we have somebody online from the office? Thank you. Welcome, Matt.
Good morning. Can you hear me just fine?
Could be better.
Yes, if you can maybe speak a little closer to your microphone.
How's that? Is that any better?
Only marginally.
That's not good. Okay, hold on. Let me try something else.
Okay. Over
Is that
to,
any better?
No, it's all muffled.
yeah, let's try it on for size, and I guess Dwight and your colleague are going to do the most of the presentation.
Presentation will, I think Matt will start on the first.
Okay.
Turn your microphone on.
Yeah, sorry there. Our colleague Matt Pasner, who was responsible for most of the EA, will do the first part of the presentation, and then Carly Dixon and myself here will be available for questions, and we'll also just jump in when needed as part of the presentation. as well.
Okay, over to,
And your name is for?
My name is Dwight Smeichel.
Thank you.
yeah, over to you, Matt.
Oh, no, we can't hear your tone now.
No, we can't hear.
How about now?
Oh,
Yes, very good.
That's better.
Okay, there we go. We got it fixed. All right, and I'm gonna share my screen. Just give me a second. Entire screen. That one. And presentation. There we go. You should see the presentation on your screens as well, correct?
Yes, we do,
Yes?
Matt.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. And I apologize that I'm not able to be there in person. but we'll go through the presentation that we have. So myself, I'm Matt Pasner, and one of the engineers with Burnside, and I was in front of you guys a little bit a few months ago. The beginning part of the presentation will be very similar, just to give everybody a reminder and background of what we've been trying to do, and then we'll get into the findings of the municipal class environmental assessment that we did to improve the water supply and reduced arsenic for the town of Mono, especially up in the Island Lake drinking water system. So just to remind everyone, the drinking water systems that we have in the town of Mono are two of them. The first on the right-hand side is the Island Lake Pump House and Coles Pump House that make up the Island Lake drinking water system within the boundary that's shown here. And then we have the Cardinal Woods drinking water system on the other side of town, which just has the Cardinal Woods Pump House and is in the boundary that is shown here. As we have, and then the entire study boundary that we looked at was the solid line that goes across Sideroad 5 and then down second line across Highway 9, and then as such that we can see. So quick background on the project. At the time of commissioning the production wells that the town has, the maximum acceptable concentration, or MAC, that was stipulated in the Ontario Drinking Water Quality Standards for arsenic was 25 micrograms per liter, or 0.025 milligrams per liter. And all the wells at the time were comfortably within this concentration level. And as such, arsenic treatment wasn't even considered or didn't need to be because we were well below those guidelines. Back in 2006, the federal government reduced that number down to 10 micrograms per liter from 25 in what we call the guidelines for Canadian drinking water quality. The province of Ontario didn't change the provincial guidelines until 2018, where they matched it at 10 micrograms per liter. Then, at that time, we had one of the wells up in the Coles Pump House that was at times above the 10 micrograms per liter in some of the samples that were taken that Matt Donor indicated earlier in the quarterly sampling that were above. And as such, that well was taken offline because we were above that limit and we didn't have treatment in place, and the ministry required us to do something. At the time then, over 2020 and 2021, we ran a couple pilot studies in cooperation with the Walkerton Clean Water Center to look at removal of arsenic, just to determine what technologies might be beneficial and what type of waste we would be generating to do so. And then in 2024, some field investigations began to look for alternative potential water sources. So that way the EA would have all the information from the pilot studies and the field investigations to make some decisions and to look at various alternatives. And so the EA commenced in 2025. And today we're here to go through that before it gets submitted to the ministry. And then eventually, depending on the outcome and the decision of council, design of any upgrades, if that option is selected, it would begin to continue the journey here that we have on this project. So 4 out of the 5 wells in the Island Lake drinking water system are currently in compliance with the 10 microgram per liter concentrations that or limit that we have. But all 5 wells do have arsenic in the water, and they are all reported to be above the half MAC, so they're between 5 to 10 milligrams per liter. I believe they're most of them are in the 6 to 8 milligram per liter range that there's there. Because we're above the half max, or above 5 micrograms per liter, additional care and monitoring are required by the ministry, in which the arsenic levels have to be measured more frequently, just to see how they're doing and make sure that we are not going above the 10 microgram per liter MAC. The arsenic levels tend to fluctuate and they may increase over time. There's a slight trend upward is what we've been seeing over the years. There isn't anything too major, but they do seem to be averaging slightly higher over time since we looked at the data for over many years. Sometimes one of the wells, Coles well PW1 or production well 1, has had arsenic concentrations exceeding that 10 microgram per liter. And as such, we decided as a group, the operating authority, the town public works department and Burnside to take the well offline late in 2017. So that way we wouldn't be in non-compliance with the new MAC that came into effect in January 1st, 2018. That caused a loss of raw water supply to the system and overall reduced the firm capacity of the Island Lake drinking water system. Over time, once we did that, the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, also known as the MECP, formerly known as the MOE, for those of you who've been around the table for many years, requested that the town implement measures to restore that water supply with potable water that is compliance with the drinking water quality standards, including reducing the concentrations of arsenic if necessary. So the town has taken the step to go through a municipal class environmental assessment in order to just look at what the options are available to deal with this situation. And this has to be done following the requirements of the current Ontario Environmental Assessment Act. And based on this, a Schedule B project is being undertaken. So phase 1 is to identify the problem or opportunity. We'll go with that in a minute. Phase 2 is to look at a whole bunch of alternative solutions. And then depending on that, because this is Schedule B, we then issue a notice of completion. And then there's the opportunity for an order by the minister to bump it up to a Schedule C potentially, or it could just proceed based on the findings of the report. So that's where we're in the stage now, right? We're just about ready to go to the MECP, but we thought we'd take it to council here just to provide everybody with an update. So the problem or opportunity statement that the environmental assessment has been following is, as a result of changing provincial standards for arsenic concentrations in potable water, the town of Mono has identified a need to reevaluate its water supply to reduce its arsenic concentrations that exceed half of the maximum acceptable concentration limits, with consideration of planned and approved growth within the town. So the approach that we have taken can be basically looked at in 3 broad categories. First is to remove arsenic from the raw water using a water treatment plant and technology to do so. The second is to find a hydrogeological solution, such as drawing water from different aquifers that would contain less arsenic, or addressing the potential for fluctuation and or arsenic concentration increases in existing wells. And the third one is to find a water supply then from a different municipality if we couldn't find it from a groundwater aquifer within the town. The preferred alternative could include a combination of solutions implemented in a stage approach as well, if required. And that's what was recommended as we go. So for water supply and treatment alternatives, we looked at doing nothing. So maintaining the existing water systems the way they are. The concern with that is we have lost firm capacity in the Island Lake drinking water system. So the system does not have the ability to meet any challenges that may be faced if we did lose one of the other wells for a period of time for maintenance or other issues that might happen. And those do happen from time to time. And the second is dealing with the committed and planned growth. We need additional supply to be able to continue doing so. The second option we looked at is providing arsenic treatment for the Island Lake drinking water system. So that would be being able to handle arsenic for, at the beginning, the well that has arsenic in it, and then potentially for other wells that may, at times, if they do reduce the limit down to 5. So I believe the gentleman, the resident who spoke earlier, indicated that the federal limit is 5. It's not 5 yet. The federal government last year did consultation if you remember me talking about this last time, to potentially reduce it down to 5 milligrams per liter, so having it again, but that has not yet taken into effect at a federal level. So if that did happen, and that's something we're not sure of the timing of when that might happen, then all of the Island Lake drinking water wells could be impacted, because they are all showing concentrations of arsenic at 5 micrograms per liter or higher at all times. We've never had a sample that's been below that in any of the Island Lake wells. But that's something that we can't project yet. We don't know when the federal government's going to do so, and we also do not know when the Ontario government, the provincial government, is going to follow. So if you looked at the last time, it took them almost 12 years to reduce it at the provincial level. So that's something that would give the town time to address and potentially find funding and grants for. So the only one that we really need to deal with is the one at the Coles well, is to provide arsenic treatment. Drilling new wells and connecting the Island Lake drinking water system and the Cardinal Woods drinking water systems together is another option, because the wells over in the Cardinal Woods area and the water supply that was investigated over in that area has very low concentrations of arsenic. 1.5 micrograms per liter or less is what we've seen in samples from the new well. And because of that, we do have a good water supply over at the Cardinal Woods system. So if we found more supply there and connected the two systems together, that would provide that benefit. And the last one that we looked at was to connect the Island Lake drinking water system to a neighboring nearby non-mono water system, such as the town of Orangeville, or considering the region of Peel. Those would be the two that would make the most sense, were the other option to look at in order to provide more water supply. So one of the figures, figure 3, just shows various alternatives that we had to be able to look at. So basically, alternative 2 would be, alternative 1 is doing nothing. So doing nothing would not show up on the map, because we just leave the current systems the way they are. But alternative 2 would be providing a new arsenic water treatment plant, maybe in this area, connecting the Coles wells and the the Island Lake wells together, and running a raw water transmission line, so that be these green lines to this green square, which where a treatment plant would be. The biggest concern with that is we would have to find a wastewater solution to deal with any of the backwash that has to happen. And as we know, up in this area, we don't have a wastewater treatment plant that can handle additional flows that would come from that, because that would be quite a quantity that would have to happen. And that would add significant cost and complexity to operating a treatment plant such as that. Option 3 is to connect up the systems together. So the first thing would be making new supply. So there would be new wells at the Klondike well test site over at this location, as well as a pump house. The anticipated treatment would just be disinfection at this stage. So just adding chlorine, very similar to what we're doing at the Coles pump house and at Cardinal Woods for one of the wells. We would then connect it up to, using the purple line here, to the Coles drinking water system, and then, Cardinal Woods drinking water system, and then eventually run a transmission line along 5th Sideroad, and then down 2nd line, and connect up the Island Lake drinking water system and the Cardinal Woods drinking water system with this new supply. So that would be alternative number 3. Alternative number 4 would be connecting to either the Peel region, running it maybe potentially down Heart Lake Road or another major road in Caledon, or potentially connecting to the Orangeville drinking water system is another option that is there, and that would be connecting it up near the Purple Hill area. So those are the 4 alternatives that were identified as part of the environmental assessment. So some important findings that we had was Additional water supply would be needed for the alternatives that included filtration or removal processes, because these would either have reject and or backwash processes that reduce the amount of potable water available and produced for the residents or users of the water system. So even if we just added treatment as part of alternative 3, we would still need more water. The reason being is you'd have a certain amount that would be what I would consider wasted, because you have to be able to backwash those filters to remove the remove the arsenic that's precipitated, as well as other metals such as iron and manganese that we have up in the Island Lake system from the filters, so the filters don't become clogged. So I think it was 20 to 25%, if I remember correctly, additional water supply would have to be utilized to be able to handle that. The other concern that we do have is there is, as I mentioned, no wastewater treatment system up in the Island Lake area, so we'd have to find a way to either add a wastewater treatment facility or have it trucked away to another facility such as the town of Orangeville's wastewater plant, or running a pipeline down to their wastewater system and potentially having to pay for some of the upgrades to get it to their plant. So that adds significant scope and cost. As such, alternative raw water supplies with lower concentrations of arsenic were then evaluated because that would likely add less complexity, require less complex treatment, and have less costs because we don't have to treat the water, and we won't have to backwash it. We don't have to deal with the waste from the backwash, etc. So that was one of the things that we were looking at, and why the study thought that that would be a better solution for the town. And we did field investigations that were undertaken that did find that there is a viable supply of water with low concentrations of arsenic, less than 1.5 micrograms per liter, which I believe was the detection limit from the lab, in the water in the Cardinal Woods area. So the preferred alternative is to drill new wells in the Klondike area and connect the Island Lake and Cardinal Woods drinking water systems together and have them implemented in a staged approach. So not everything would happen right away. It would be done likely over a 7 to 10 year range, depending on the growth that the town sees. The first stage would be to drill those 2 new wells at the Klondike gravel pit site, and then have a building, basically a pump house constructed there that would have disinfection and connect to the Cardinal Woods drinking water system. So that way everything is connected and it's flowing into that area. The second stage would then be to connect the Island Lake and the Cardinal Woods systems together by a transmission main to form one drinking water system. So that would be done in the short term. There would be added benefit because right now the Cardinal Woods system is a facility that has all of its water pumped, and any time that any of the high lift pumps or fire pump goes down, or if the main connection from the pump house to the system goes down as well, then the Cardinal Woods system is completely down because there's no way to provide pumped water into that system. So there isn't any redundancy available. So by going through stage 2 and connecting the 2 systems together, the Cardinal Woods system would also benefit by having some redundancy, by having water supplied from the water tower up by the Coles pump house. So we're providing some improvement there that we weren't trying to do as part of the arsenic, but there's some add-on benefits that happen as we go through this. Stage 3 would then be to finally decommission Coles production well 1, and that's that well that's currently above the arsenic limit of 10 micrograms per liter. It's been out of service 2017, and it's just been sampled as per the frequency required by the ministry, just to keep it there, because the well is still present and the town is required to sample even though we're not using it. And then stage 4, and this could happen or may not happen at all, is to reduce reliance on the remaining Island Lake drinking water system by decommissioning all but the largest capacity wells. That's only if we're thinking the arsenic limits are further reduced. So in the long term, that would be the plan. But until that happens, they don't have to be, that they be there and available for the town to use. And perhaps some other technologies may come up in the interim that might make that water supply available to use and be treated at a much more cost-effective range. So that's not something we're aiming to do stage 4 right away. It's only if required down the road. This preferred alternative is the only one that can supply enough raw water to meet the existing demands. It accommodates all anticipated growth within the town in proximity to both existing systems. It doesn't require reliance on the Island Lake drinking water system wells that do have that naturally occurring concentration of arsenic. And it meets the current provincial drinking water standards. And for arsenic concentration and for treatment, it will only require disinfection. And it has the lowest costs. So to build it, capital cost, operations and maintenance costs, O&Ms, and the 20-year life cycle costs, so the cost to build it and maintain it over a 20-year life cycle. And it meets the problem and opportunity statement that we identified as part of the environmental assessment. The other thing that we had to think about is if we look at the supply and treatment of the wells, we also need to look at the storage of the potable water. So the town will require additional water storage after the users increase by about 1,300 people. So if I remember correctly, we have about 3,700 and a few people equivalent populations. So that would be people living there, plus taking into account those that may be working at some of the businesses and commercial facilities that are connected. If we increase that to about 5,000 people, we're going to need additional fire storage, especially as the combined system population will require us to increase the fire flow to 159 liters a second for 3 hours because we're creating a bigger system. So the alternatives for potable water storage that were evaluated were, again, do nothing. So maintain the existing water storage as we have now. And that would be just keeping the storage facility at Coles, so the water tower, and then the storage reservoir that's at the Cardinal Woods pump house. The second would be to construct a new water storage facility, and it would be an elevated water storage, the water tower. And that one doesn't require any pumping. It does to get it up into the tower when you're using it, but when users use it during peak demand, it uses gravity, which is a lot cheaper to maintain and operate, and allows us to provide water when the electricity is out. So that was one of the ones looked at. And the third one was to construct a grade level storage reservoir or a standpipe. And that's kind of like the one that you might see behind St. Peter's School or the fire hall over in the town of Orangeville. It's just a big cylindrical tower that gets pumped out, and it doesn't have all the water up at the top like the mono water tower that we have. We looked at some various sites for these storage facilities. Number one was near the existing Cardinal Woods pump house. The second was the Klondike test well site. And the third was potentially adjacent to the existing Island Lake drinking water system water tower. The thought was to have it, if we're connecting the two systems together, to have it near the Cardinal Woods site or that side of the town. So the Klondike test well site was the preferred site. The reason being is if that transmission main between Island Lake and Cardinal Woods was ever temporarily offline because of a water main break or something that happened, we'd still have two gravity storages on both sides to maintain until such time that it was repaired, and it would provide better redundancy to the overall systems. So again, we had another figure that basically shows those three locations. So either having it by the pump house, the Klondike test site, or adjacent to the existing water tower up in the Coles subdivision area. The Klondike test well site number 2, had the highest elevation of the sites, which would allow for cost savings by reducing the height of the water tower, was another benefit that we had for picking the Klondike test well site. This alternative allows the town to accommodate the same amount of potential growth as the preferred water supply and treatment alternative, and will allow us to address the problem and opportunity statement. And it also had the lowest 20-year life cycle cost and would be easy to implement and operate. It's very similar to the water tower that we have on the other side. The water tower option would be the preferred water storage alternative. It would be stage 5 and would be in the long term, only when the town grew to the population required to add additional water storage. So it wouldn't happen right away. We think based on the planned growth that would happen likely near the end of the implementation stage of all of the preferred option that we spoke about earlier today. So to sum it up, the preferred solution would be a new water supply and treatment alternative of drilling new wells and connecting the two systems together on a lake at Cardinal Woods. Only disinfection is anticipated to be required as part of the treatment of these new wells, and eventually building a new water tower at the Klondike test well site, site number 2. And this is the same option that just shows everything all in one. So again, new wells here with a pump house, water tower, connecting up to the Cardinal Woods system, eventually transmission main along the Sideroad down second line and connecting up to the Island Lake drinking water system, and then eventually decommissioning Coles Well number 1 that has the highest arsenic levels in it. And that would be the long-term plan for the drinking water systems for the town of Mono at this time. So the next steps is upon receiving confirmation that the town supports the recommended preferred alternative, a draft copy of this project file report, which I believe was submitted to council, would be submitted to the environmental resources planner and assessment coordinator at the MECP for a 30-day comment period as requested by them. If they provide any comments back, the project file report or PFR would be updated as quickly as possible, and then a notice of completion would be issued. Sorry, before that, we bring it back to councils because if anything did change, we wanted to make sure that the council was aware. Then we would issue the notice of completion. It would be a 30-day commenting period, and that's the time frame for the minister to issue a Section 16(6) order if necessary. And then if there is no such order issued, then the implementation stage could happen, which would depend on funding. And the first would be the design process, then approvals, then procurement and construction. It would be done in stages. We know that it's a big amount. It is anticipated that a lot of the money would likely come from grant funding, hopefully, to be able to implement some of that. But that is something we can speak about in a little bit. But in the end, that's a high level of the environmental assessment process that's been undertaken and the findings that we have. And I'm happy to answer any questions along with my colleagues here today in regards to what we've learned, what we found, and what's been presented here today.
Okay. Dwight or Carly, do you have anything to add before we open it up for questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick note that from the hydrogeological perspective, in terms of hydrogeology, a lot of the considerations were kind of evaluated in the context of the Tier 3 process. I know I think there's a presentation next week that's coming up on Tier 3 and Tier 3 modeling results, but just from a hydrogeological perspective and to put everything into context, I think Councillor Nix noted quite correctly, in fact, that since 2014, 2015 or so, Town of Mono and Town of Orangeville have been part of this Tier 3 groundwater modeling process, which established a local area for groundwater control and basically said water takings within this zone are significant risk. Now, the Tier 3 process itself, by definition, is conservative. It does use very strong language, and it does say that any water taking in this area is a significant risk. Right? And it tries to do that to make sure that we are very aware of the consequences and that we consider and bear them in mind. So in my opinion, I think the early establishment of the Tier 3 created a framework in which we understand and can plan for hydrogeology in this area. And I think that's what has happened. The Tier 3, one of the policies that came out of it early was the requirement and the establishment of a joint municipal water management agreement. And I think also Mono, Orangeville, Amaranth, and East Carriffraxa are part of that. And I think that has put into the hands of staff and us as well the authorizations just to look at water management as a larger picture and not in isolation. So I think the recommendations coming through in terms of hydrogeology bear that in mind and say, these are significant risks in terms of what the legislation says, but the legislation also puts the tools in our hands, and it doesn't require us to panic, but to plan. And I think that's what we're doing now, is the planning through the process. So I just wanted to put that out there to say the legislation gives us the tools to plan, and the planning doesn't take place in isolation. And so solutions that are being put forward in the context of, if we do this over here, what's the impact over here? And so it is also a little bit iterative, the process, in terms of what can we do to optimize the results. Now, finally, I'll say that the modeling itself too, it is a little bit conservative, and it does try to say, what is the worst case? What would happen if we did nothing, if we didn't let any more recharge get into the ground, and if we basically just let anybody do what they wanted to do? So that's kind of the context in which the modeling itself has taken place. But it provides us then the framework to say, we must do something now. And I think in terms of source protection and its implementation, policies are in place. The joint water management agreement is in place and functioning. Risk management processes are in place in Orangeville, in Mono, in Amaranth, and East Carriffraxa to protect the resource. And so I think we're in a good spot hydrogeologically, because what it has also forced us to do is it's forced us to become more aware of what's going on here. And so while we may view it as a high-risk, high-threat area, it is also the area that we know the most about. So we are in the best spot to make hydrogeological decisions because the data is most available in this area as well.
So I think it's important, though, that we focus on the report today, the issue of which option to pursue vis-a-vis arsenic abatement, whether it be treatment or whether it be alternative sources of water. And I gather you're back in July to talk to the issue of supply.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think I am back with the CBC on that day as part of that presentation.
So mindful of that, I'll ask Melinda and then Fred.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a whole bunch of questions, but on this issue of how much of the resource that we actually have, and conservative meaning that, don't be alarmed, we actually do have some. This is the worst case scenario. I heard you say that. But equally, in this arsenic situation, worst case scenario is the federal government does accept that 5 micrograms, and the provincial government continues on with the, well, we've always said you had to have only half of whatever was there to be, safe for all the people. So now we have no wells over there that we can use. So if we already have a lower capacity that the government has actually said to us, you must fix this because we've had a well off for 9 years, right? 2017 to 2020. We've already had it and we're being told we need to do something, then we're kind of obligated. And so you're right, we could truck it in. Which was one of the options, right? To hook up from somebody else, right? Or we're obligated to, because we have subdivisions, we have businesses, we have people using this well water, right? So you have to keep, the whole broad picture is good, but we do actually have to keep it all in mind, right?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you are right, Councillor Davey. I think that's the important part, is that we have the tools and we have to keep our eyes on the ball right now. And not, it's not a rosy picture if we don't keep our eyes on the balls right now.
Yes, Dwight, you've partly answered the question I was going to ask, but I just want to frame it in a slightly simplified manner. You know from the Tier 3 study in 2014 that we have a water quantity threat, as does most of Orangeville's wells. And and the most recent Tier 3 study confirms that water quantity threat. Not only that, I remember one of the conclusions of the latest study, which we're going to hear about in July, specifically says the Cardinal Woods wells will have trouble meeting future demands. That's one of the conclusions of the study we're going to hear about in July. So this is where I get back to a question to you. Your preferred solution is to drill 2 new wells in the Klondike pit. Now, my understanding is the Orangeville wells that have a water quantity threat are Cardinal Woods wells, the 2 wells you drill in the Klondike pit, and the new well that Orangeville is going to have, I call it the Pullen well, but I think it's called well number 13. They're all drawing water from the same aquifer, the Guelph-Annabelle aquifer. Now, I'm not a hydrogeologist, so you know I don't understand this. How, by drilling 2 new wells into the same aquifer where we already have wells with a water quantity threat, aren't we just sucking more water out of that aquifer and exacerbating the problem? And in answering that question, the thought that keeps going through my mind, which you may not be able to answer, but I'd like to put it out on the floor so that the public who's listening can understand this. When we did a municipal comprehensive review study a few years ago, the province said we had to plan for a population of 95,000 by 2051. Most of that population, about 7,000, is going to be in Orangeville. And I keep saying to myself, does it make sense to put 7,000 more people into an area where all of our wells now, or almost all of our wells now, have a water quantity threat? Maybe you can't answer that, maybe that's a planning issue, but I put that out there so that the public understands. So what I'd like to hear from you is, how, by drilling 2 new wells into the Guelph-Annabelle aquifer and the Orangeville with the Pullen well, aren't we just sucking the water out of that aquifer and exacerbating the problem?
Thank you very much, Councillor Nix. So the current Tier 3, I'll answer that part of it first. The current Tier 3 has, so proactively, Klondike was included and Orangeville well 13. So the predictions into the future have already considered these wells being in place. That being said, hydrogeological impacts do vary by the well design, the area of the aquifer that you're at, and based on the knowledge that we've gathered over time. So newer wells in particular areas do have the potential to have lesser impacts than predicted. So that's very important to consider, in that a lot of the existing wells in Orangeville and in Town of Mono are old wells. They were drilled with older technologies, and as wells age, their efficiencies drop. Right? So you are required to either pump harder or the flows get less. And so we would anticipate that through this ongoing management, testing, evaluation process, that newer wells in the same areas would be less impactful than the current ones, or through the data, we would actually find other areas where we can actually optimize yields. So I think there's still remaining hydrogeological opportunities and some considerations. One thing which the model does not consider is just operational processes, for instance, right? So each well, for instance, has a permit to take water, which operationally, staff tend to pump wells at about 90%. They never take the maximum amount, right? Just to give you that wiggle room on the end, right? So I think between the hydrogeological considerations, the operational mechanisms, we can pump the storage here, we don't need to stress the aquifer. There is a little bit of wiggle room left in there, but I think, Councillor Nix, in the end, as you very well recognize, this area we're the headwaters, top of the hill, right? Like, the resources here are what they are. We aren't being fed by anybody else. This is what we've got. And I think in that context, the biggest responsibility we have is the continuous management of the resource.
Okay.
And to
I'm
put
going,
7,000 more people on the same system.
okay, I need to go to Ralph and then Elaine and then get back to you.
Thank you. Actually, Fred brought up the same thing that I was wondering about. Essentially, you've said that there's enough water there for us to extract maybe twice as much, which is what we'd need if we were supplying Island Lake. The whole problem is that the Island Lake is presently supplied by a different aquifer than the Cardinal Woods people are. So we're giving up on one aquifer, one that's supposedly laced with arsenic, and the other one which is not. And you're hoping that we can get twice as much water, and you're saying we probably can. Is that correct?
And I'm going to look at Matt a little bit, because I think that was the analysis that we did, Matt?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Earlier today, Mr. Croker presented some thoughts, and I'd just like to pass them by you. One was that we have responsibility to be sure that we need to do this, and I think clearly the ministry has made it necessary, but he also brought up a question of sampling, and I'm just asking, have you enough samples from the so-called grab samples that we've done over the years, or would you want to have more sampling before you went ahead?
We have done a number of samples over the years that I think we have enough information to be able to show that. I think we have quarterly sampling, so grab samples every quarter for a decade or longer, that to be able to show that information. Yes, I could share my screen. Just give me a second. I've just pulled it up. Take 1 second here. There we go. And I will make it bigger. So we can see this color green, the darker color green is Coles Production Well 1, and every green dot is a sample that's been taken. We can see back in 2009, 2011, 2014.
Can you enlarge it a little more, please?
Yeah, I will try my best. There we go. How's that?
Good.
So the orange line is the 10 limit. The green was Coles Well 1 that we've been having issues with. And then eventually, starting in 2017, we start to see it above and at the line. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Between almost 15 to 20 samples already that show that it's above.
All right. Thank you. Could somebody tell me what the section 16.6 order is?
Carly, are you able to?
You mentioned in the process section 16/6 order as being something that might confound the process.
Yes, it's related to any concerns related to Indigenous matters. So if members of the public or Indigenous communities have concerns with respect to the reports, they can request the ministry issue a Section 16 order. During the commenting period, we still respond to any comments we receive on the project file report. But in terms of Section 16 order, it's related to Indigenous concerns.
Thank you.
So that order could halt the process?
Yes, it could.
Elaine, then Fred.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this is all very interesting, and thank you for all the hard work that you've done so far. I do think that the point brought out by Mr. Croker was that there is a problem, and I am not an environmental engineer, and probably won't say this as eloquently as he presented it, but this is what I understood. In cracking that channel open to take that grab sample, you can release the arsenic. And so if we were to maybe do a continuous sample over a longer period, I don't know what it is, 6 months, a year, I'll go back to Ed and ask him that question, then we would have that continuous sample without that, what I call cracking open the seal that lets the arsenic in, so that we know that the arsenic is continually there, not just when we manually go to look for it. That's one comment. The other one, thank you for asking about the 16.6 order. I didn't know what that meant either. And then the final thing, the costs. Who pays? What is the cost? And what's the impact on the water system users in terms of cost?
So if we can just address the issue of continuous sampling versus random sampling or grab sampling, and whether or not a period of a month, I think Mr. Croker indicated at least a month, would render a different result than what we get when we grab a sample.
Matt, I'm not sure if you wanted to jump in. I can jump in a little bit. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So over the years, we've done hydrogeological testing, which basically has gone beyond when you crack the pipe. So we'll run the well for a little bit, a few hours, and do grab samples along the way just to see if there were changes in time associated with that. We didn't see a lot of that, but I will say I don't think we ran it for a number of days. It was a number of hours that we did that sampling over, and I'm not sure, Matt, but I think the Walkerton people might have done some similar process where they kind of had multiple sampling sessions during the testing that they did, and there was no real deviation. So basically the arsenic concentrations were very consistent.
Can we confirm that,
Yes.
the Walkerton people?
I can confirm that during the pilot study that Walkerton ran, they took multiple samples per day over a 1 month period, if I remember correctly, and we didn't see a major fluctuation in the concentration of arsenic coming from the two Coles wells, because that's where we ran that sample from.
So the next question had to do with the cost, and to what extent it's, presumably to what extent it's offset by grants. We know that the town of Shelburne, as an example, has received quite a considerable grant recently. Would we be eligible for, I would say, significant grant monies if we decide to drill 2 new wells as opposed to building a complicated arsenic abatement process together with a wastewater management and all of that fun stuff?
In regards to the costs, I think there was 2 questions. I think Councillor Capes, she asked the overall costs. So the costs that we have for the supply and treatment is in the $33 million range, and supply the water storage would be somewhere around the $10-11 million range is what's being estimated. So you're looking at about $44 million overall. It would not all be expended in year 1. It would be spread across the 5 stages that I spoke about earlier. In regards to grants and funding, it is believed, in our opinion, that some grants would likely be available. It's just I'm not sure at this time which ones are available for something such as this, and we would need to work with the town to look for some grants. I believe there's one in place, and Matt Donor could probably speak about that. That could be used to maybe start getting the wells put into place and some of the design. But then after that, once there's better funding and some drawings ready, the town would have to go and look for federal and or provincial grants, or start lobbying potentially the provincial government to assist, likely. But maybe Matt would like to speak on this.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So we do currently have the grant with the province and the federal government, and we've met with those support staff from the province, and part of the next step, should this alternative be accepted, would be to go back to the province to look for a scope change with that application and extension for the grant when the due date, final due date. So moving forward, we'd have to sit down with Burnside to look at a realistic timeframe or when we could get what we could do with the existing the remaining funds that we have available, and then set that deadline with the province and request the scope to be expanded.
I have a question I want to ask before and this will be your third round, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to, okay, yeah, that's correct. Would we be drilling the wells at the Klondike regardless? Would we be drilling those wells regardless of whether we chose to address the arsenic with a new water supply? You seem to indicate that the Cardinal Woods area might require some additional water, additional wells, given the age of the existing infrastructure.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll start an answer, and I'll look to Matt to jump in and save me on the end here. So Cardinal Woods currently, so is 3 wells, Cardinal Woods 1, Cardinal Woods 3, and Cardinal Woods 4, so MW1, MW3, MW4. MW3 is the lead well out in Cardinal Woods, and Cardinal Woods 1, Cardinal Woods 4 are closer to Monora Creek. Historically, MW1 and MW4 have had concerns on their permit to take water due to interactions with Monora Creek. The Klondike location is further away from the creek, and as far as we've seen in the testing so far, they don't impact Monora Creek. And so, from an environmental standpoint, Klondike is a better option. Pure environmental considerations, pure consideration for potential impacts to surface water flows. It is a better location. The other consideration too is that because of these potential impacts to Monora Creek, the MECP has placed restrictions on MW1 and MW4 operating together. So again, moving it away over to Klondike gives us some operational advantages as well. So from a pure hydrogeological perspective, Mr. Mayor, Klondike has great advantages of putting in wells over there no matter what.
Melinda and then Fred.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That clarifies a lot. Matt, I just wanted to ask about the money. The grant is 6 million, is it not? Was that what it was? 6 million?
Approximately.
Yeah. So it would have to be a staged process to pay for this. If it's going to be 40 million today, projected to be whatever, it's going to be more, right? Oh, things always cost more if you're going to take a long time to do them. So, but the number that stuck out to me was the annual costing. Is projected at being an additional 200K, which would have to come from when the question of where's the money coming from, the people who use it, right? I mean, all of our water services and so on are always paid for on an ongoing basis, are paid for by the people who are using them. And so that is something that also is very just key to know. But that's a realistic number going forward forever, is 200K?
The 200K number is not the correct number. I'm just looking for it. So it'll take me a minute to find, Councillor. Just give me a second.
Oh, right. 65 for annual for the well. The 200 was for when we got to the point of having a tower versus a reservoir.
Yeah, so you're looking at
pardon me, 65.
812. No, you're looking at 812,500 for the treatment supply, and roughly 350 over 20 years That's the average annual O&M. So you're looking almost 1.1 million, 1 million to 1.1 million per year once fully implemented.
Okay, so even more money ultimately to our users, right? Because grants are allowed to, you get a grant and it's for a certain amount of money, and this is why you're saying you have to go back maybe now and change the scope, that it's not that we want to just wash the arsenic out of it, we actually want to, stop that and move to something else. So you have to get them on board with that. Hopefully, they would appreciate that 6 million is not going to do it, and they'd give you more, but it's only for capital stuff, grants. You can't, the ongoing operating thing the money has to come from someplace else, right?
Yeah, so the current grant, there's no more funds for the existing grant that we have. We would be looking for more, but yeah, it would be a trigger. Whatever we have currently or has been expended is obviously gone, and the remainder would be to take care of whatever else as part of the plan that has been presented today.
Right, okay, thank you.
There's one thing to note, Councillor, is this would allow some additional users add to the system, so that would bring the cost down, more people paying to use the water as well, right? So it's not being borne completely by the existing users. This option would allow for some of the plant growth.
Fred and then Ralph.
My question too is similar to the last couple of questions. It's on cost, and I'm wondering if any of this is going to affect the water rates that our current users are paying, and in particular, and I've talked to Les about this, we have Watson and Associates do a costing study for us, and they build into their cost future scenarios, including in the last study they did a water tower, which, and I got this number from Les, they put in their, and this affects current rates, the water tower at $7.2 million. And in this study, we've got an estimate of $11 million for the water tower. That's just one example. But so my question really is, and maybe it's to Les, does any of this, if it's approved, are we going to get Watson and Associates back in here to redo the water rate study for our residents?
You have to. You have to.
To answer your question, Deputy Mayor, I would assume yes, because we are now looking at significantly more costing, plus any other further capital costs, because that 7.2 million water tower is $2025, and we're getting an estimate of 11 million. Might be different, a few years from now. But yes, we would have to redo our rate study.
So the bottom line is our residents should expect sometime in the next few years another increase in their water rates. I mean, I don't see how we can avoid it.
Well, normally under the legislation, we have to redo our water rate study every 5 years anyways. So we would be looking at this in 4 years to complete it within 5. So, and that keeps the process up to date, and then you'll have more up-to-date costs to deal with.
Okay, thank you.
Ralph?
We have a $33 million expense upfront, not including the water tower. And I had a brief discussion with Les before this meeting about other funding options, because that has been taken advantage of by Shelburne. And Les, do you want to comment on a special request?
My understanding of the funding that Shelburne received was a special request, not from existing grant programs that might have been at the time. So I think what Burnside has made the comment, we would have to contact ministry staff and work with them and put, pressure on the government for additional funding, especially if you're looking at 33 million.
And just to further clarify the timeline here and the length of time over which this would all be occurring, and obviously the costs would be spread over that timeline, just so that people don't come away from this thinking that next year all of these costs are going to hit. Can you just give us a refresher on the timeline that one might anticipate?
I would anticipate, Your Worship, that it would likely be done over a 5 to 7 year time frame is what I would be anticipating. Some of them might be a little bit longer, but it also depends on how quickly the town grows, because like we said, the water tower wouldn't have to come online until more than 1,300 equivalent people or users got connected to the system. So that could be 5 years from now, that could be 9 years from now. It just depends on growth. But the wells would be the first stage one. I would expect that would happen with the current grant funding, depending on what's left and available. And that's something that Burnside and your Director of Public Works are going to meet about later this week or early next week, and get some of the design done. And then after that, that gives the town some ammunition to go and try to find additional funding at different levels, because that would give you something more concrete to present to the province or feds or both to go forward with. But we would expect to do it in the stages that were identified, and I would expect to be spread out over the 5 to 7 year range.
Elaine, and then I'm going to suggest that I read the motion.
Yeah, thank you. Just based on the last comment you made there, Matt, about supporting 1,300 new users for this tower. We don't
Yes.
have any growth planned for those numbers. We have met all of the growth targets. So you're saying that the new tower really only supports the new growth. I'm just, short forming this, but there has to be a benefit to the existing users flat out, or it's not worth doing, because we're not going to build for 1,300 new users when we don't plan that growth. That's just my thought. So maybe you can help me with that.
Carly?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to clarify that the developers or growth, if it necessitates water infrastructure upgrades, they'll have to contribute to those costs. The town over the past years have gotten several planning applications. The densities vary based on the type of servicing they propose, and that will really determine how much water supply and storage we need. So in terms of this Class EA study, the primary purpose was to look at arsenic. But in evaluating all of the alternatives, we looked at opportunities to have that excess capacity, because we know that there are developers at the table. We're in Ontario Land Tribunal on at least one of those files that the town there will be growth coming, and our current water system just can't meet all the demands. So we did have to, in considering all the options, look at the town's water system very holistically, so we at least know if we do this, how does it impact storage? And so while the EA wasn't to address growth, we had to really look at it as a whole to determine how each alternative played a role. And to do this project, we will have to really look at funding opportunities. It'll be critical to progressing the study time-wise. If we can't proceed with the study unless we need money. But if there is growth, we will be requesting those developers come to the table as well. So it will really depend on how those developments decide to service. And the densities that they come to the town with.
One more question.
Just
and I'm gonna-
on that one then, so, but to Elaine's point of, thank you for explaining that, but to Elaine's point of, I don't want to worry about people in the future, I'm worried about our residents that we have now. It is the residents that we have now, that we've got the arsenic levels potentially changing, we've got all of our wells that have too much arsenic in them if they really do change, and we've got the issues that you're talking about with respect to the overall flow. I mean, it is the people the system that we have now services that we are really addressing and making it so that they can live here for another couple of generations, right?
That's correct. The focus of the EA was on existing.
Matt?
Just quickly, thanks, Mayor Coleman. It also gives the opportunity for existing private well users to come online. So that was also taken into consideration, right? So this water main would be running across 5 Sideroad. There's existing communities like Starview, Golden Road, Robinson Road, second line, 5 Sideroad. So anyway, there's opportunity there for existing private users that have had challenges with their wells to also connect. And then just on the note with grants and ministry, like I have been, the ministry is very well aware. Martha, our inspector, has been informing staff whenever there's a grant application opportunity that comes across the desk, their desk, they inform us right away. We did apply right away after they sent last year. I think it was late last year. We applied for a grant on these lines, and we were unfortunately denied because the EA hadn't really had a firm result. So it's important that we now have a firm recommended alternative that we could take to them and say, here's our plan. We need money to get this done. So anyway, just.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got to read this motion at some point.
So this is just about the community involvement. At some point, our community will want to be able to ask questions and maybe provide input. And and maybe this is more a question for you, Your Honor, at what stage would you see that appropriate?
Well, I think we need to get a reaction from the province to our preferred option, so that when we convene any public meeting in the future, we're talking about something that is tangible as opposed to something that is still up in the air because the province hasn't given us a reply.
And possibly after we've investigated funding, so we know what the costs are going to be.
And indeed, the funding will be the key question at any public meeting. So without further ado, I'm going to read the motion. We can have further comment or debate on the motion itself. Motion is that Council for the Town of Mono receive the Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Draft Project File Report dated May 2026 from the Town Engineer Burnsides, and that Council approves the preferred alternative number 3 of the draft project file report, and that Council authorizes Burnside to proceed with submitting the draft project file report to the Environmental Resources Planner and Environmental Assessment Coordinator at the MECP. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Davey moves, seconded by Councillor Manctillo. Any further questions, comments? Mike?
Your Worship, if I may, just to address Councillor Manctillo, the study area that was shown in the heavy black line on the appendices of the EA, they did receive a direct mail out. And I believe there was overlap into that as well. So there has been public request for consultation. That was for vacant lands and for occupied residential and or commercial properties. So there has been a part of the EA is public correspondence.
And I think there's a place on our website to make comments about this as well. Is that all true?
We did have a list of, in the EA document that Mr. Pasner prepared, there was a list of public comments that were received in various forms.
Okay. Any further questions or comments on the motion specifically? Call the question. Any opposed? All in favor then? That appears to be the case. Motion's carried. Thank you very much for all your hard work on this. I'm going to suggest a short break, maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead with the rest of the agenda.
We're back live.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the unfinished council business list. Does any member of council have any questions or comments about that? Elaine, are you jumping in on that?
Well, thanks for, keeping track of us. I do want to just ask, because Q2 is coming to a close, and I just want to understand if we are going to get those items clear before October, especially Q2.
I think, in fairness, I think we need to give the clerk time to catch his breath, and he will have some overlap with our incoming clerk. So between the two of them, hopefully we can polish off a number of the items on the list. Am I?
Absolutely, but there are some for planning and there are some for public works. So I just want to understand if we could come back with a date that we expect that we're going to get something at the council table. Just an estimate of when we might have a presentation or like that, it would be on the agenda for those items for Q2. That would be awesome.
Can I suggest that maybe at the next council meeting that the timelines be refreshed? Mike?
Couple of items, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Capes. So, yes, the clerk's office will definitely have an overlap, and the hope is that with the incoming new clerk on July the 6th, that'll alleviate and free up some time for Mr. Simpson. As you did note, Your Worship, he was on leave for a while. With respect to Public Works, I believe Matt has a draft bylaw, but I'll speak with Matt with respect to updating the timelines. And in the planning department, Councillor Capes, you're aware that we do have that council workshop is actually not a good description for item number 7 anymore, because council referred that document to the Planning, Environmental, Natural Heritage Committee, of which you sit on that board, and that is upcoming in the next couple of weeks. So that one is advancing. So that one, but I think what you're really wanting to see is whether the timelines and the estimated dates for completion are accurate, and staff will commence to update the timelines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? That takes us to the 2 planning matters on our agenda today. The first has to do with the 25th Side Road. And Deborah, would you like to briefly give us a summary of your analysis and recommendations?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The agent for that application is in the audience as well, if you have any questions for her. So this is on the 25th Side Road. It's just east of Blind Line. The application came to council earlier this year in January, I believe, and we said that we would bring back an application, bring back the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment when we had an application for site plan approval, as well as all the fees and payments had been made. Those were taken care of in early May, so we are back now before you with the official plan amendment and the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. This one, just as a refresher, this property is on the south side of 25th Side Road. The north central portion of the property has now been staked by the ministry and is identified as not being part of the provincially significant wetland. The area that was staked out is 0.47 hectares. Of that, 0.23 is proposed to be redesignated to rural for the establishment of one single detached dwelling. The remaining 0.24 hectares is identified as environmental protection 2, with very limited, the draft official plan that's in the report includes limited permissions for only natural heritage and mitigation strategy. And that will help us to reinforce that buffer between the new rural designation and the existing EP1. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment basically follows the same pattern. There was some questions about whether or not this OPA had to go to the county. In the report, I did mention that the county's bylaw, let me just find it here. The county bylaw 2015-16, that's the county's bylaw that gave Mono exemption of approval for its official plan amendments, but they held back a few items that were not eligible for exemption. And anything that changes the boundary of a county natural heritage system is not eligible for exemption. So that's why this one has to go back there. Because the OPA is going back to the county, we have a couple of choices that I'll let Fred explore in terms of what we're going to do with that zoning bylaw. But I'll talk about the bylaw now. The zoning bylaw amendment, again, takes that 0.23 hectares that's going to be designated rural. It zones it rural and it allows for the house. The surrounding area that we talked about a moment ago, that's going to be EP2, the mitigation strategy. The zoning bylaw amendment includes, let me just grab it here, includes a special provision. So the EP zone is just EP, but we're putting a special provision on it, so it becomes EP3, not to be confused with the designations, okay? But this zone now, EP3, will permit only natural heritage and habitat restoration. The intent of that is to ensure that the accessory uses to the residential portion don't spill over onto it. So that special environmental protection zone permits only the natural heritage and habitat restoration. No accessory structures, no amenity spaces, nothing, okay? Now, in terms of what the OP and the zoning bylaw are going to do, council would need to adopt the OPA, and then we can send that to the council for county council for approval. And at the same time, you can either give the zoning bylaw one reading while we wait for the county to return the OPA to us, or there is a provision in the Planning Act, Section 24, which would allow us to say that if, for whatever reason, the county doesn't approve the OPA, the zoning bylaw isn't considered in force either. But I'll let Fred, I think he's crafted his documents for you, and I think he's already addressed that for us. So coming now to the site plan approval. So we know we got the site plan approval application in mid-May, and all the fees were paid, all the outstanding taxes and arrears were all taken care of. So this site plan approval is intended to allow us to work with the owner through the details of this mitigation strategy to make sure that it does the best it can possibly do to improve that wetland. One of the recommendations I have here is that if council chooses, we can bring that site plan back to council for review before it enters into the staff drafting up agreements. And I think in this case, that might be something that would be prudent for council to take another look at that when we bring this, when we finish working with the owners to bring that mitigation strategy up to the level that we want to see.
Fred, any thoughts?
So just on process, Your Worship, I'm recommending that we pass the bylaw to implement the OPA. And then, as Ms. Alexander explained, that'll go to the county for their approval, at which point it will be in effect. The zoning bylaw, having come to this late in the process, I'm recommending in this case, just give first reading to the zoning bylaw. Then once the OPA has been approved by council, it'll come back for the zoning bylaw will then come back for council's final approval.
Linda, and then Fred.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Alexander. And yeah, Fred, I think, we talk about public input and so on, and it's not necessarily that people want to have input, but they want to know what's going on with their neighbors and so on. And if any opportunity that we can have that we bring something here just so that it's discussion, it's on the agenda, it's one more time, as opposed to just letting things happen behind the scenes and everything, I think it behooves us to try to do that. So that sounds like a good plan to me.
Yeah, I just want to go on record again. I mean, I think it's a very good plan. I'm all for it. but I really, really object to this duplication of planning services in Dufferin County. It's not Mono's fault, it's not the county's fault, it's the province that says they'll only deal with the county, so we have to go through these two stages. I do not see why we need two planning departments looking at this application. That's my personal view, and I just want to put that on the public record.
Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you for the report. And I appreciate the EP3, the introduction of that. I think that's a really good option for protecting those other lands that don't fall under the rural. I have a question. When I look at Appendix E, the town official plan with all the lovely green on it, if we're confident that the original protection will not be negatively impacted, why would we not expand, I know, just a question to keep the map tidy, why would we not expand the zoning to include that entire, the entire green space that's outside of the green turquoise line? So on my diagram to the left of that, why would we not include that whole thing as well? I know it's complicated.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. In response, the provincially significant wetland still needs a buffer. So that line you're looking at, the boundary between the new EP Special Provision 3 zone, and the EP2 designation, and the original EP1 boundary of the wetland, that area is the buffer. It's not the full width buffer, which is why we're doing the mitigation strategy to beef up that buffer, to make up for the fact that it doesn't actually, it's not the usual size, but all of the documentation, all of the policies allow us to reduce that buffer where we have a natural heritage evaluation that says that that is a useful thing to do. So those areas have to be protected as buffer in order to satisfy the provincial planning statement.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Now that you've brought us all looking at the map, I remember a question I wanted to ask, and you mentioned it, that the Appendix B, the staked wetland boundary one, there's a portion, there's a portion on the right lower part, that's the dark green, that's the, that coincides with, on the other map, that coincides with a piece in our official plan that already is rural A. So it stays as rural A, and so even though we have said that there won't be any more buildings in this one area and everything, there could actually be development, correct? On whatever that is. What road is that? That's the 20, no, on Blind Line. Because there also looks like there's a little entrance there, just the way the lines are on the maps and looking at the Google, it looks like there is actually that, since this isn't an addressed property, kind of when I looked at it just randomly, geez, the address should be Blind Line, because look at, there's a little entrance there, and oh, it looks too, okay, so is that, just for clarification, there could be an outbuilding here on this part?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The area that you're identifying was examined many, many years ago as a potential building envelope, and no access could be provided to it. So it has no safe access.
It's a pathway that I'm seeing on Google, not an actual,
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
If we look at Appendix D, County Official Plan, this area shows up as a provincially significant wetland.
Right.
So is it still a provincially significant wetland, or has it become changed, or what's happened here? I don't quite understand the process. I went by and had a look at it, and the whole area is level and low. I must say, I looked at it in the winter, but this didn't seem there was one area that was any different than anything else.
Okay, again, through you, Mr. Mayor. An NVCA was out on this site several years ago and staked the boundary of the wetland on the ground. Because as you know, when we do a county OP or a town OP, we're using very broad brushstrokes, and it's a very high-level mapping. So there are provisions in both documents to allow for what we call the refinement of those boundaries. And that means getting out on the ground with a surveyor and actually an ecologist and staking the edges of what the wetland is. That mapping is then required to be forwarded to the ministry for review, and if the ministry agrees, that mapping is then incorporated into the ministry's provincial mapping. In this case, that mapping has been incorporated into the provincial mapping. So what we have now is a disconnect between the provincial level mapping and the county and town level mapping, and that's why we're doing the OPA.
Okay, all right. And then BCA, they reviewed this, and I saw a very brief dissertation on that, but they're quite happy with the process. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no objection, I'll read the motion. Whereas the Council for the Town of Mono held a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act and received and heard from the applicant, the town's planner, along with the public. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to adopt Official Plan Amendment 45, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk for the Town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book, and that we introduce and give the necessary readings, first reading, I should say, given first reading to the bylaw to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 78-1 as amended to change the zoning of part of west half lot 25 concession 2, part 2, 7R 673 to include rural AH holding zone and special environmental protection 3, EP3 zone, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Capes. Any further discussion? Any opposed? And that motion carries. And that brings us to our second planning matter. Ms. Alexander?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This application is for 20 Madill Drive in I guess it's Lot 4, anyway, Lot 4 of Plan 7M30. This application came before us again a couple of months ago with Dan Stone of Thorstone Consulting giving us a presentation. He's not available to come. I was texted this morning and asked if I could present this on his behalf. He's got a conflict. So what we have for council is an existing subdivision which is identified, let me just get down to my zoning here, sorry. There it is, Special Hamlet Residential 2 zone. In the Special Hamlet Residential zone, we do not permit accessory dwellings in an accessory structure. So we only allow apartments, so apartments within the existing house. So we're thinking things like basement apartments. In this case, the applicant is coming forward and asking us to allow the conversion of his existing garage to an accessory apartment on the second story. So that then becomes a secondary dwelling unit, which is not a permitted use in the Special Hamlet Residential Zone. Just for reference, the Special Hamlet Residential Zone, the RH2 zone that is in this subdivision, is only related to an exterior side yard. It doesn't really impact this property, so just consider it as a Special Hamlet, or a Hamlet Residential Zone. We did have a public meeting. There were a lot of comments that came in. A lot of members of the public spoke. The owner and his agent came back with a response, which is contained in the appendix to this report. In addition, one of the questions that was asked was, what are the impacts of this conversion? Is the size and the location of the structure appropriate for the use as a residence? And that was one of the things that was coming up in that last meeting. I reviewed this, not necessarily the agent for the owner, and in my opinion, it's contained in my staff report below his table. This structure is located at the rear of the lot. It's existing, it's built within the zoning provisions. Its conversion will require a new permit from the county, so that conversion of the use has to satisfy the building code. Because this structure is, its height and its size is all permitted in terms of the current accessory structure requirements of the bylaw, the existence of the structure has no impact. The use, however, could have an impact. So I've looked at it in terms of where it's located, what's going on in the surrounding properties, where the rear yards are. And given that it's isolated at the back and these properties are quite deep, I don't see any negative impact occurring as a result of this conversion. However, in order to ensure that we don't have an unintended intensification of this property, I have crafted the bylaw in such a way that we are, in essence, swapping permissions for the basement apartment in exchange for this secondary dwelling unit. So we will only ever have one accessory dwelling on this property. The only difference is that this bylaw will put that accessory dwelling in the outside structure as opposed to in the basement. But he cannot have both. It's one or the other. And that was intended to address the concerns from residents regarding the use of the property, the intensity of the use, increased densities in the subdivision. I'm trusting that council finds that satisfactory in terms of responding to concerns. And with that change, I have no issues with this application whatsoever.
Comments? Melinda, and then Fred.
Thank you very much for answering that question I had with the secondary dwelling versus the, whatever it's called, separate, no, what did you just say? The two different things between having an apartment, basement apartment, or likewise, he can't have, I was wondering, is that a clarification that this is a 1,400 square foot building? This is a big building. Pardon? Well, that's just what, so it's on a separate septic and everything. So I was wondering whether it was going to fall within, if we didn't have this in the clause, was it going to fall within having more apartments within it, which definitely makes it, never mind having an apartment in his basement. But my one, so thank you for clarifying that. My one comment really for the public is that I think we're in a situation here where this was one of those build it and then ask for forgiveness rather than permission, because yes, it was built as being a workshop and that was all, but clearly if it's for the daughter's always been living in the house with them, and it was kind of maybe an obvious thing that, anyway, I just, not to say anybody was dishonest, but I do feel that the neighborhood got a little duped on this. And so the concern is for the rest of the neighborhood, this particular lot, having the angle, and yes, it's at the back, but I just want reassurance that we are approving this thing is this thing. It's not changing, or is it opening a door to change for all of these lots in this neighborhood that everybody can double or up now? Is that what? Yes, that's the question.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Two parts to that. The first is that within the entire subdivision, we can have accessory apartments we'll call, just for ease of reference, I'm just going to call them basement apartments, okay? So we can have basement apartments throughout this subdivision. That's permitted as of right in the RH zone. In this case, yes, we have an accessory structure that is being proposed to be converted, but they're not converting the entire thing. It's apparently just the upper floor and then a small portion of the ground floor. The rest of it is still supposed to function as this workshop garage based on the floor plans that we were provided. Those floor plans will be vetted by the county as part of their building permit process. In terms of using this as sort of a precedent for the rest of the subdivision, a couple of things have to be pointed out. In each case, we have to satisfy the provincial policies, the county policies, the town policies, and all of those require that the servicing be appropriate for the long term. which means that we have to do all of this engineering work on a lot-by-lot basis. So if anybody wants to try this on their lot, they would have to do all of that engineering work again for their specific lot. And again, the precedent of this bylaw is that if it goes into an accessory structure, it's not in addition to one in the house. It's either or. But again, each and every one of those would have to come forward to council for a zoning bylaw amendment because Mono does not add uses by variance. So this must come to council each and every time.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm conflicted by this one. I mean, we have your excellent report and you're recommending that we go ahead with it. And I'm prepared to do that, but I must say, I think the town has been duped on this application. A garage workshop with its own washroom, its own septic bed, and I saw the pictures of the front door. There's no doubt in my mind that this person built this house to become a residential unit at some point. However, you've looked at it, it meets all the requirements of whatever it has to meet, and you're going to take away his right to have a basement apartment, so I'm leaning towards accepting your recommendation, but I'm still a bit conflicted by this one.
Elaine? And then Ralph. Okay.
Thank you. I was concerned about the public comment, but I think you've addressed it in your answer about being concerned that it was built as a workshop and being converted to a living structure. And so now will it be in the right place, right size, all that stuff? But I think you answered that. And I too am, this has taken me a lot of back and forth and thinking because I am very empathetic to the 69 residents who put forward their signatures to oppose this. But I do appreciate that you've made this change so that it's a swap out for what exists and is allowable to everybody. And then it's a swap out now to this use, to have this secondary dwelling. My concern about secondary dwellings, as you know, I haven't brought my motion forward, is that we don't have any, we don't have any qualifiers for secondary dwellings. Are they meant for people in the family? Are they meant for additional income? We haven't discussed any of that, and we haven't got a way to monitor or control that until we put in the licensing that we want for short-term rental properties, et cetera. But so that's a bit of a gray area for me. But knowing that I believe that this use was for someone in the family, and we do all know that things are challenging out there, and that finding a home and a place to live is near impossible for those who are starting out in their independent lives from living with family. So I think we have to be open-minded to these things. And yes, it is available to everybody as long as they meet all of the criteria. Yes, it will change the look and feel of that slightly in that community. But I think it, as you say in your report, it meets all of the criteria. It is maybe not what we want to see, but it's going to happen. And if you want to compare this to Toronto, all those wartime bungalows that were built in East York are now being ripped down, and 6-bedroom houses are being built on those tiny lots. And so it becomes what is needed by the community as they move in and as things change. So a long-winded whatever. But I think that because the outside structure is already there, that is not going to change, then it's there, so be it. And so I think being flexible to it being a dwelling instead of a workshop garage only doesn't change the look of what is currently built. So I have a hard time with this one. It's a challenge. But thank you for your report.
Thank you. So it's not carved in stone, it's not even written on paper, but I think that neighborhoods have some right to control, to some extent, their neighborhood. And we've got a 71 names, you've got 69 that dislike this. And I think that's huge. I'm having trouble supporting this. I feel a little bit the same as you, Fred, that this has not been straightforward in terms of original intentions, and that's clearly upsetting.
Yeah, so another question for Deborah. So this, to my mind, this is our rural A neighborhoods, which I think everybody here on council lives in, that we're worried about the monster home, we're worried about the monster homes, right? And how can we control the bigger homes within our broad place? Now, this is a beautiful subdivision of estate lots, where now the right around where this is, in the middle of where they were looking out and enjoying the green space that these estate lots have, now there's another big house there. And it was built within the parameters, and so it is built, and that's why now we go around the room and we're all saying, well, it's there. But it's kind of like, I don't know, there are some, is there a way for us to, he got a permit to build it, the upshot isn't going to be that he has to tear it down or whatever, it's within all the guidelines. But for the going forward, for the 70 people who have said, this is not what we want in our neighborhood, is there a way other than, because the answer, I appreciated your answer of each person who comes with wanting to build something in their backyard needs to cross the T's and dot the I's, but it doesn't mean that it's not actually going to happen if everybody came and did it. Is there any recourse for the neighbors who are, or is it just, live with it now?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping that I'm understanding the thrust of the question. Forgive me if I'm not. The structure is existing. Currently, the bylaw allows for fairly large accessory structures. There is potential to reduce the permitted size of an accessory structure. That's something that we can pursue. In terms of the conversion of the use, there is nothing we can do about that. Everybody has the right to make an application. This zone, specifically, well, not this zone, okay, the rural zone is the only one that specifically permits those units in a secondary structure. This zone specifically permits only basement apartments. That is the extent of the control that you can realistically provide. And then the question becomes, when somebody comes forward with their application, the merits of that application must be weighed. So you must, when it comes to council through the zoning bylaw amendment, one of the things that we do in planning is make sure that the merits of the request on that specific property, in that specific structure, in that specific location, makes sense from a planning perspective.
But we heard from the people on the petition, the petition came to us now when converting it, but what we heard from the people was that they didn't even like the structure to begin with. How did this get built? It just got built so quickly. I didn't even see it. Nobody knew it was coming. I asked the guy what he was building, and he told me it was one thing. Now it's another thing, right? I mean, we heard that over and over from the people. So was it that we didn't have a public input at the time because it all cost the P's and Q's of just to have being a shed or a garage? Is that why?
So council since pre-1976 has a zoning bylaw. The zoning bylaw stipulates the size, the coverage, the setbacks to the property line, and this subdivision, circa 1980s, created a new Hamlet residential zoning. Council of the day approved that subdivision, and inside of that it had accessory structures as a size. As Deborah has committed, that can be changed at a future zoning bylaw amendment through council. But as it stands today, the size, shape, and feel of that accessory structure is within the council's zoning bylaw. So, it's something that we put on our list and flag it for council consideration at a future date. The conversion of use is back to what Deborah has talked about. Everybody has the right to make that application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to make a few comments about this. I appreciate the concerns of the neighborhood as reflected in the petition that was submitted and their participation in our public meeting. I am very concerned about the precedent that this sets. It's one thing to come into town hall and explain what you want to do and go through the process in an orderly fashion. It's quite another to build a structure that is clearly intended for a purpose other than what is advertised in the first instance. If you can imagine the rest of the Camilla subdivision and the opportunities, given the size of the lots, for other structures like this, I think you'd end up with a mess on your hands if all of a sudden everyone were to do what this individual has done. I appreciate, however, Deborah, the effort to swap the right from a basement apartment to the out structure. I think it's creative. Under normal circumstances, I think we should be mindful of that sort of approach. I know of one other property where this was done many years ago in return for a severance. Certain conditions were attached that limited the future severability, I guess maybe is the right word, wrong word, of the main portion of the land. But I have some really big difficulties with this, and I'm not certain that this isn't the only instance in the town where this has been done, and we probably have not heard about it yet, but certainly there's concern in the adjacent neighborhood about what's actually going on. So I can't support this, unfortunately.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Yeah, and your argument is very persuasive, Your Worship. Deborah, what happens if we were to turn this down? Does the applicant, is there a process? What I'm scared about is going to the Ontario Land Tribunal again. Is that what technically or legally could happen? Oh, gosh.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes. In this situation, the applicant does have the right to appeal.
And could I just say finally that I know you've done the swap, okay? You can have a residential unit in the accessory building, but you can't have a basement apartment. But I can tell you this, there's no way that's enforceable. We would never know. That person could take in someone into a basement apartment. There's no way the town would ever know about that.
Well, there's no way we know that if we decline this, that he's already got a septic, that he's not going to have her live out there anyway, right? I mean, what different? This is already an individual, but that has shown his colors. But the idea of that you've got a piece of property now that has something in the back that has been declined or whatever if he were to sell, because it strikes me that this isn't going to be a very nice place to live now. You've annoyed all of your neighbors everywhere. Why? And then your kid, why does she want to stay there either? So for selling the building in the future, that creates a problem, doesn't it? If it has not been, if we decline this, it stays as a building that is a workshop and a garage. Nobody could do anything in the future either, right? Or come back again.
Correct. It would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop.
But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard garage workshop. But it would have to revert back to just being a standard gar
don't quote me, but I believe the requirement is that before an application can come back before council, it has to be substantially different from one that was already refused. But don't quote me on that because I don't have the act in front of me and I have to check.
And the only other thing I'd say is that this is a perfect example of why the province's decision to take site plan abilities away from a municipality it is so it's so wrong, and I know they've done it because they want to encourage as much housing as they can possibly build, but this is a situation that cries out for a site plan that addresses the appearance, the height, how it's located on a parcel of land, all the other things that site plan would engage, and yet we don't have those powers anymore. Elaine?
Thank you. It is a very challenging decision that we have to make because I agree. We've had solid planning, and the planning was put in good conscience with a subdivision that was planned. People bought into that design specifically because of what it was and what it allowed and what it would look like, and I'm sure people thought it would continue to look like that. But, you know, hence we have this large home rural bylaw because people are building things that don't fit, like, you know, 3-story blocks that look like apartments and things like that, that don't fit with the character, don't fit with the use of land that was here traditionally, and they're still being built. And this is perhaps one of those. But the thing that I have trouble with is that it's already built. We should have had comment at the time that that structure was proposed to be built to say, no, but then again, it complies to all of the zoning. So it's very troublesome. The thing is that, yes, we can go back now and adjust that rural hamlet, special hamlet zoning to say that an accessory structure is not what is built there now. But we can't take that down. So I have trouble because it was approved, it's built, and all we're doing is saying, okay, the upstairs is just going to be used for somebody to live there instead of, you know, in the basement. So I'm really struggling with this one.
I think we've had a call for the question. I'm going to read the motion. Whereas the Council for the Town of Mono held a statutory public meeting under the Planning Act and received and heard from the applicant, the town's planner, along with the public. Now, therefore, be resolved that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 78-1 as amended to change the zoning of 20 Madill Drive, Lot 4, Plan 7M30 to Special Hamlet Residential, RH4 zone, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that?
Well, to put it on the floor.
Well, I think we need to make a decision one way or the other, so I wouldn't withhold. Okay, you're moving to put on the floor. I think we need to vote up and down on this.
Yeah.
Second, Ralph seconds. Any further discussion?
Well, one little further.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, the big thing that is holding me back here is this right to appeal and how much this is going to cost the town, ultimately knowing where the provincial government is and the OLT in how they are ruling on things these days. This will just be an exercise in spending money and making our point, perhaps, but There's really nothing more that we can do, right?
Can I just,
Yeah, go
one
ahead.
qualifier to that, Deborah, is if the applicant, if we turned it down, we haven't voted yet.
No, we haven't.
If we turned it down and the applicant did take us to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and I quite agree with Melinda, we're already racking up quite a bill this year with the Ontario Land Tribunal. You know what we could do at that point if he takes us to the Ontario Land Tribunal? No contest, not fight it.
Well,
What, in the name of just making a point, of just, yeah.
If money's
let's not prejudge our strategy in front of the Land Tribunal.
However, Your Worship, if I may, we have existing zoning. We have an existing special hamlet designation. So all we're saying is we're not changing it. And so can the OLT say, no, somebody wants to do something different, so you have to change it? No, it doesn't meet current, so therefore we're not changing the zoning, so therefore it's done.
So, Deborah, do you have anything to add?
Okay, recognizing that this is not legal advice. With the current direction that the province is taking in terms of secondary dwellings, in terms of additional residential uses, in terms of the priorities of the province, the policy documents we're working with have been amended to ensure that housing is a priority. And I think in this instance, the lesser would be to swap one permission for the other.
One last.
If I may, one last one. He has to live with his neighbors is, and that is to, you have to look at yourself, or at least I expect people to be able to look at themselves in the mirror and really be honest with what kind of people they are. And for us to knowingly go out and spend money on something that we can't make them turn it down. I'd go to the OLT if we had a leg to stand on to tear the thing down, because it was built on a false pretense. But we can't do that because it's within it. But I am bothered by how close the building is to the, I would like us to relook at the zoning. But I don't think that it's prudent.
I've heard somebody say, call the question. I just wanted to make one comment about going to the OLT. Each and every time we've gone to the OLT, it has been to make a statement and to attempt to preserve what makes Mono special and what we value in terms of its rural character, albeit some urbanized. I'm not saying it's money well spent. I'm not saying that we should win every time, but I think that it would be a problem if we made decisions based on whether or not we have a hearing in front of us. So on that happy note, I'm going to use my prerogative to call the question. All those in favor of the motion? All those opposed to the motion? Motion is defeated. Okay. Yeah, it is important. So that takes us to bylaws, correspondence, the CTC Source Protection Committee member nomination.
That's a slam dunk because he's already been appointed.
Okay. So I have a motion then. The Council for the Town of Mono confirms its support for Chris Garretts as the joint municipal nominee to represent the municipal group consisting of County of Dufferin, Township of East Garifractia, and Township of Amaranth, and the Town of Orangeville, the Town of Mono, Simcoe County, and the Township of Agila Tosserantio on the CTC Source Protection Committee for a further term, and that the clerk be directed to provide council's confirmation of support for the coordinating municipality and to take such administrative steps as may be necessary to facilitate the joint municipal nomination to the CTC Source Protection Region. Do I have a mover on that? Fred is moving. Ralph is seconding. Any opposition?
No, but I just would like to say that Chris has been appointed, and he's an excellent choice. He really knows what he's doing.
Great background.
Yeah, very much so. And that motion, any opposed to that motion? That motion carries. Next item.
Oh, Elaine's waiting.
Oh, Elaine, sorry.
Sorry, I thought there was an allowance for a comment, and I just wanted to clarify that term means what?
5 years.
Because there's an election coming in October. Is Chris representing as a municipal
I think it's an order in council
representative or
appointment.
as a citizen?
I think,
My understanding is under the act, if he's appointed, whether he's a councillor or not.
yeah, that was
And it
my
would be an order in
understanding as
council
well.
appointment, probably.
Yeah,
By
and it's
the
a
pro-
5-year term anyway, which, so it's always out of sync with elections.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
Next item on the agenda is the appointment of municipal bylaw enforcement officers. Fred, would you like to take us through this?
And we're just keeping our list of bylaw officers up to date to reflect hiring done at our contract municipal support services.
Okay. And I think it's important to say to the public that last time this came up, people were saying, how come you're hiring 15 bylaw enforcement officers? And this is,
We're getting tough.
this is, exactly. This is a pool from which we call as required only. Correct, Fred?
Yes.
That's correct. At the moment, MSS is only contracted to offer canine control services.
Okay, thank you. I did, just apropos of this, I did get a call, actually from Chris Garrett's yesterday to give me a heads up about a livestock issue. And we have a livestock inspector who is no longer working for us, is that correct?
So this occurred, I don't know how the resident got through to Chris Garrett's. I haven't followed up with Chris yet. But we did have Mr. Swiderski provided notice, and we were in the process of finding a replacement, in which the clerk did over the last couple of weeks. And we have an ongoing ongoing service for a livestock evaluator.
And is that prominently featured on the website, and is the agricultural society, the Dufferin, what do they call it? Dufferin Agricultural Association?
All residents are required to contact the town.
Okay.
So I don't, like I say, I don't know how they got through to Mr. Garrett's. I don't know, I don't understand how that went, but I haven't followed up.
Nonetheless, they did, and he, I think, generously suggested that their livestock in the absence of knowing who was doing it, that their livestock person might be willing to
The
cross
claim
boundary.
has been processed,
Yeah.
and as if there was no change in service
Oh,
from
good.
the town of Mono.
Good,
So
okay.
it was time sensitive, as you can
As they all
relate, that dead cattle and/or sheep are sort of time sensitive to get the photos,
Yeah.
and that's all been taken care of, and the town of Mono's up and running again with a shared responsibility, not a shared responsibility, but with a member from East Carey.
Terrific.
So just for edification for the public about our bylaws, that we have a part-time bylaw person, Mr. Ron Kirby, who the hours are on the website or no? When you have a bylaw problem, when you have a complaint about something, you are to make a form online, and that will get looked at. But we don't have somebody who works 24/7, right? We have a part-time person. And with respect to the dog things, you still go to the bylaw online, fill it out in the same spot where it says dogs, and then that will go to this pool of people, but again, on a part-time basis. Nobody's going to come right when you call, or right when you fill out your form, right?
That's correct.
Anyways, I have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend Bylaw 2021-27, appointment of municipal bylaw enforcement officers, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk of the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Cape, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nix. Any further discussion? Any opposed? And that motion is carried. Development charges statement, Les?
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. As my memo states, with the enactment of Bill 60, it basically says that the treasurer's statement for development charges now be presented to council by June the 30th, along with additional information to go with the statement. Now, as my memo states, the statement was always produced and was given to the auditors, and would be in the notes of the financial statements. The additional, so basically, the very first chart that is prepared is what was always prepared for the auditors. They would receive it and then form their notes. The new requirement are the attachments to that first page. So basically, you know, what are your development charges being levied? Are you using them? And so these schedule are meant to meet the requirements of the legislation. Now, this is a template. I'll give credit to where credit's due. It was designed, was put together by C.N. Watson, who did our development charges. So it is their understanding that this will meet the ministry's requirement.
Thank you. Fred?
Yeah, and this is all fine, Les, but you know what? Of course, I want to check your numbers. You show on this that our opening balance for this year was $4,948,940.11. I checked our financial statement, or our budget for this year, and you show in pages that you show our reserve, you show development charges at $4,617,922. That's a discrepancy of $331,000. Now, maybe I didn't read far enough, but I assume the numbers you're reporting to the province should match what our 2026 budget showed. Did I miss something?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so as you said, Deputy Mayor, that was budget projections. This chart is year-end numbers, actual numbers, which, you know, are provided out. Now, if you look in the far right column, total, so it gives you the total of all the various amounts. One key line is interest earned, $321,000.
Mm-hmm.
Because our financial statement started with the year-end figure. Okay, you're saying that wasn't included in the reserves you
No, I
showed?
just basically used what balance I had at the end, and interest is always, bonus, it's extra. I don't project the interest numbers for the end of the year.
Okay, all right, so thank you for the applause, fellow council members, but actually, that's a good point to understand. I didn't know that.
No, we didn't either.
Les, I have an unrelated, maybe related question. It's obviously not part of the reporting, but are we picking up many oversized residences, given the fact that they are subject to a larger development charge than other residents? Is that scheme working?
I do recall at least one application with a 4-bedroom. So yes, it is working. Generally, they are 3-bedroom, but we have had at least one application with a 4-bedroom.
Right. Thank you. There's one at least. And I think we have more to come. Yeah, we have more to come. Okay. I have a motion that council for the town of Mono receive the 2020, pardon me, Elaine?
Thank you for indulging me here. So the opening for this chart was January 1st, 2025, and then is the closing December 31st, 2025?
Yes, Councillor, it coincides with our year end.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I got that right. And then maybe on another day, Les, I'll come and talk to you about what does this look like when we look at 2026 and our budgeted items, because Some might be concerned that there were no development charges used in 2025. And so have we taken advantage of development charges in 2026? Just a question, what that might look like going forward for 2026.
If I may, Your Worship, if we recall, in 2025, we budgeted development charges to fund at least 50% of the Bridge 5 reconstruction. So the development charges would normally have been used in 2025 if that bridge construction got going. However, anyways, that bridge is being built this year in 2026, so you'll see development charges next year's statement for this year shown as being used. But we did not budget anything in 26 to use development charges.
Okay, thank you, Les, I appreciate that. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thanks. So I have a motion that Council for the Town of Mono receive the 2025 development charges treasurer's statement, and that we direct the treasurer to submit the statement to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing by July 15th, 2026. Moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nix. Yes.
Did you say by July 15th?
No, June 30th.
June 30th.
The motion reads July 15th.
Okay, thank you.
Are we okay?
Submit to the, oh yeah, Church Council by June 30th.
Yeah. Okay. Ministry by the 15th. Okay. Any opposition to that motion?
Your Worship, I'm sorry, I missed, who was the seconder?
It was Elaine was the mover, and you were the seconder, Fred.
No, I was the mover.
Oh, pardon me, my apologies.
Melinda and Fred.
Yes. My head is on a swivel going back and forth with the screen.
Yeah, because we're missing this one today.
Okay. To get the ball rolling on Schedule A, I have a motion that we accept. Sorry, yes? Yes, any opposed to the motion?
No, I thought he did.
We
I
passed.
thought I did, yeah.
Keep up to speed, Fred.
Okay, I have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda, and that will get the ball going on Schedule A. Moved by Councillor Capes, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nix. Any questions on Schedule A, or any comments on Schedule A? Fred?
Yeah, number 10 and number 17, which is all about the amalgamation of the conservation authorities. I just want to point out, particularly on number 17, in the province's document, it all sounds so wonderful. We're going to amalgamate these conservation authorities and everything's going to be more efficient. But I have to tell you, at the CBC meeting last week, and you've got my report, number 10, there's so many unknowns. Let me just give, if I could, a couple of examples. And I'm not making these as statements as to what's going to happen. I'm making them as question marks, because I don't know. I talked to some of the CBC Foundation people. Now, put it in context. The Credit Valley Foundation raises a significant amount of money for the Credit watershed, and they do a lot of good things, like the trail, the Credit Valley Trail they're building. So the question they asked me is, well, under this amalgamation, we're a foundation, we raise money from industries and people in the Credit watershed, and we do things in the Credit watershed. What happens to us? Like, if we continue to raise money, does it go to the Western Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority and end up down in Niagara Falls? I mean, of course, I can't answer that. I'm just saying these are the types of things that are spinning around in people's heads. Another good example is this, and I'm not going to look up the numbers. About 97% of CBC's budget is given by the region of Peel. The reason being, Peel uses Credit Valley to do a lot of its work. There's a very close relationship between the region of Peel and Credit Valley. What happens when Credit becomes part of the Western Lake Ontario Conservation Authority? Is Peel going to continue to want to pump that much money into conservation authorities that might end up down in Hamilton or Niagara Falls? Again, I'm not saying that will happen. I'm not making this a statement of fact. I'm raising these as questions. We had a report from our CAO at the last meeting that the province did have a meeting of all the CAOs, and they sat down and they talked, and they didn't really learn anything more on the specifics. We've had the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency appointed. It has now 5 directors. They're all, by the way, deputy ministers. We've had an executive director appointed to it. the transition teams now have been appointed, and they're going to meet with a provincially appointed executive director, and they've been told they're going to be given, quote, a playbook. We have no idea what that means. Maybe they'll just be told, here's what you're going to do. That's probably too extreme, but we don't know. So I just wanted to pull number 10 and 17 to say, yes, particularly number 17 sounds wonderful. We're doing all this and it's all efficient, but by golly, there's a lot of unknowns about this process, and it worries me. I suppose the last thing that I should mention is I still don't know whether Dufferin County is going to get a representative on any of these boards, Ralph, yours or mine. The province has said that representation on the boards of these regional conservation authorities will be based on population.
It also says that each municipality will get a minimum of one. Each municipality will get a minimum of one. I can't tell you where I saw that.
Okay.
I just saw it last night. But I assume the municipality they're talking about will be at the county level rather than
Dufferin County that'll
rather
make
than
the
our level.
appointment.
So we will not have our town of Mull will not have a representative.
No, but Dufferin, you're saying Dufferin County will. Well, that's refreshing to know. That's all I wanted to.
My understanding was that the payment of each municipality was based on population. Is that not applying to Peel? And will,
Representation on the board?
no, representation, the amount of money that we pay NVCA is based on our population here.
No, it's based on assessment.
Okay.
Current value assessment.
Assessment then. So is that not going to continue?
Well, for 2027 it is, because for 2027 it'll still be the CVC budget that governs expenditures in. But after that point, my assumption is the payment method will continue. Each region, Hamilton, Niagara, Halton, credit will pay on the basis of current value assessment.
I think
that
that's-
would be my assumption.
I think that's everybody's assumption, so that they'll continue to have the same costing and the same input and output as they've had in the past.
And to put that in perspective, our current payment, we being Mono, Amaranth, and East Garifaxa, in terms of the Credit Valley budget, that's just the Credit Valley budget right now, is less than 0.2%. Under the Western Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority, our share, Dufferin County's share of the budget will probably be less than that.
Yeah, I know that you guys are very involved in, because you get to sit on the boards of the Nottawasaga and the Credit Valley, but my take on reading these things is that they just want oversight to be able to, ram some things through. The actual way that each of the conservation authorities and the programs that they get to provide and who gets to use them and all that, I don't see anything that they're saying that that's going to change, nor are they going to add any extra funding or do anything. They just want the ability to come in and veto or build something or whatever, right? So I don't think that we'll actually see a big change quickly, and it may turn out that it is unicorns and daisies, like they say in their thing. That this is great. That now we've got some streamlined stuff. We've got the same things going on. It's not necessarily going to be terrible. So we need to keep these documents at the forefront so that we can hold them accountable, right? As they go forward.
Councillor Davey, I think you're quite correct. But there's still an enormous, in my view, administrative cost to do all of this. Just to give you one example, for Credit Valley to change the signs on its parks, its vehicles, and everything else to Western Lake Ontario Regional, $1.5 million is a ballpark estimate.
Right, but if they say that they're keeping all of these conservation authorities, why do they bother? Why do they need to change the sign? I mean, it's just that's the structure of it, but it still is the Credit Valley. Like, I don't know. You think they are definitely going to change everything?
Legally, Credit Valley Conservation ceases to exist on February 1, 2027.
And becomes Western. Okay.
Well, at the very least, you have to print new business cards.
Well, that yes.
Okay, anything else for Sheshla? Melinda, anything?
I did. I had written down number 11, and no, but I guess that's maybe the same.
Can we suggest we read number 11 until July?
Yeah, that was, yes,
Yeah.
sure. As long as, again, we
idea.
could put that through, because that was very interesting. And then the other one that I had written down was this interesting, yet again, a bill that has, it's just a huge umbrella with all sorts of things. So number 18, directing us to Protecting Ontario's Streets and Communities Act. The idea, speaking to our first question today about speeding and so on, that when I go to the actual, no, it's not pulling up here, it's not in the thing, but the link to the actual bill, there is a small portion that says, and I guess I didn't write it down, there is a small portion that says that we will have the right, which I kind of thought we already did, to fining and to enforcing, not policing, enforcing our bylaws like we didn't have before. Did anybody else go through this?
I'm going to speak to that when my turn comes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I can help. Elaine and then Ralph? Nothing. Oh, nothing.
I
Elaine?
too had number 18, so thanks for bringing that up. And I think it's great that we get a notice that they're looking for our feedback, and the deadline for our comments is June 25th. Thank you very much.
So on number 18, it is what they call an omnibus bill.
Right.
And it has everything but the kitchen sink in it. And it has a specific schedule that gives municipalities the ability to use administrative penalties as a mechanism vis-a-vis the Planning Act. In other words, if there's an illegal land use, you can use administrative penalties to address it as opposed to taking that process through the provincial court system. However, the reality is that whenever they have granted municipalities the right to use administrative penalties in the past, they've always done it by way of regulation. And I can find example after example where the act was not amended, but they passed a regulation, which they do every week, every Wednesday, that would take care of this issue. However, for reasons that are completely unknown, they put it into legislation, and then they then promptly adjourned the House for 21 weeks. So I have written to the minister, or our MPP. I've written to the minister, and I've said, why are you not proceeding by way of regulation? Because we could have this authority next week. I got a form letter back from the minister's office basically telling me, look at us, we've amended the legislation. And of course, that doesn't explain why they did it that way and they didn't do it the efficient way. I've likewise written to the MPP. I've heard absolutely nothing back. And I think it's just tragic because we could be dealing with Planning Act offenses, illegal land use, transport trailer trucks, you name it. We could be doing that next week under administrative penalties where the town gets to set the penalty. It's our penalty, and if it's not paid, it gets attached to the tax roll. And that is different than POA, where a judge sets the fine, and if it doesn't get paid, it goes on top of the $1 billion in unpaid fines that are sitting out there. So that's my harangue for the day.
A question on there, if I may,
Yeah.
Your Worship. Why can't we just move ahead anyway? And if they come back and say, well, it wasn't in regulation, we'll say, oh dear, it was passed into legislation.
It hasn't been passed yet into legislation. It was sent off to committee just before they adjourned for 21 weeks. So my estimate is that this will not see itself passed and proclaimed until the end of the year, if not next year.
But the minister responded to you to say, look what we've implemented.
No, all he said was, we put it into legislation. Oh, but he didn't tell us that it was in a 21-week hiatus. He just said, we've amended.
He said himself, it's in legislation, so if we interpret
What's
that
in the
as it's
process?
in legislation,
They've
we can do
introduced,
it.
all he said was they introduced the bill. And we should be happy. We
So-
should be happy.
So that's the, right, so that's the purpose of it, when they peg off a whole bunch of different topics, so that they should be able to make a whole bunch of different people happy briefly.
They had
until it
they had a
actually-
big press conference in Caledon, where they had the Caledon Safety Organization that has been fighting the illegal land use. They got membership out for that. They got the whole Caledon Council out. The minister was there, and they broke out the champagne and cigars when they announced that they were amending the legislation.
Really?
And,
Champagne and cigars?
Well, I'm being facetious. But the reality is they've pulled a fast one, in my opinion.
So again, this is something that is on, it's on our radar, and we need to make sure that we, in 21 weeks, when it's a whole different council, that we fall back to it, right? And because we have felt that we are with our hands tied, and that that when residents come to us with problems and so on, that we can't do anything, and this is an indication that there is the ability in the future to do something.
Yeah, what it does is, Fred thought that with the banning of safety cameras, that the amps pressure was off. I think you were correct in that regard. However, this puts it back in front of us as something that a system that we need to set up, either in conjunction with Orangeville or Shelburne, who have amps regimes, or we do our own amps regime. I would suggest partnering with an adjacent municipality. Because then, yeah. Delay. Okay. That takes us to reports of members of council staff. Les, anything?
Only just one item, Your Worship. Just give council a heads up. The financial auditors will be at the next council meeting. We're just finalizing the statements.
Thanks, Mayor Krillman. 5 Sideroad, just a couple of quick updates on construction. 5 Sideroad, top course has been applied. Signage and pavement markings will follow in the coming weeks. Bridge 5 has been demoed. They're looking to place footings in the next week or so. So it's moving along nice. Mono M Town Line commences resurfacing, pulverizing and resurfacing works after July long weekend. Looking like July 7th it'll commence. Couple grants here, a few grants here that I want to just report quickly on. I think I already reported the pothole grant that we received $38,000 for crack sealing and pothole repairs and whatnot. We also received 10 grand for the IPCF Phragmites Fund, so that we've received that. We're pretty good shape as far as Phragmites go on roadsides. We're just focusing primarily now on our storm ponds, and Public Works is even looking into the goats to help us out in lieu of using herbicides. We're looking at using goats in the storm ponds.
Let's get
so
pictures.
We're looking into it. We're trying to find put some tender documents together for that as an option to tackle our invasive species in the storm ponds. So we're working on that as a side. We also applied for the Hydro One Community Grant that was submitted last week. So that's for funds for potentially a new. We've applied for another digital signboard for emergency signboard. We have the one out here that we've moved around. We're hoping to get a second board for the water information and whatnot. So that's we're waiting on the results of that. And then we have another grant that we have to meet about this week for the Green Municipal Fund, and that's for feasibility studies for. We're looking into bridges for erosion. It covers anything climate change related. So we look into feasibility studies for maybe potentially our forest tracks, waterways, adjacent bridges and whatnot. So we're looking at applying for that one as well.
Matt, I had an inquiry about abandoned tires on roadsides. And is that something your crew attends to? If a location is reported to you?
Yep. Yeah, we're constantly picking up stuff on the side of the road, tires included.
Is that all I have to do?
They are free. There's been a bit of a, I think there's like been a cap to some degree on the tires.
Yes.
The province, the storage, this has been in Schedule A as well, I believe, but I think that some of the places that have been collecting fees for the, when you have a purchase of a tire, that's included in the sales, and then the receiver is supposed to take that tire and process it. I think they're starting to become full, and they're no longer recycling, so we're finding these tires a lot of the time.
We had a discussion at County Council on this and a presentation from a garage in Amaranth.
Yeah.
About the seriousness of this problem that, and I don't, did we pass a motion?
We can't remember if we
Yeah.
passed a motion, but it
Okay.
certainly sounded serious.
Sounds familiar. So we can, if we hear of any roadside tire dumps, we can report those to you. And you did a great job up on the, it was here, Ontario, south of 89, where there was
Yeah.
a pretty bad.
Yeah, that was hit
dumping.
twice within a month. Same
Twice.
location, we cleaned it up, and within a week and a half, there was another approximate tandem load dumped down the ditch.
Really?
Yeah.
We had to use the excavator to pull it all out because it was so far down. It'd almost be easier on the side of the road.
This is
They
organized.
dumped it all down the embankment.
This is organized. Somebody's is
Right.
deliberately doing it.
Yeah, it's not just Mono, it's everywhere. So, anyway, that's all. Thank you.
Fred, anything?
I have nothing, Your Worship, though I do just want to confirm that the motion for Schedule A was called.
Yes, I moved and seconded, yeah.
Yes. Was the vote called?
I believe we did. Okay, if we didn't, then I'll do it after the discussion. Okay. Mike, anything?
Yes, just briefly, reminding council that at your next meeting, July 14th, you will have a new joint clerk, I guess we'll call it for now.
Okay.
But they'll be starting on July 6th. Clerk,
Clerk or vice clerk.
vice clerk, anyway, to deal with the overlap. So administration is really looking forward to that. The clerk's looking forward to that as well. I don't want to take away from Ralph here because I believe that you'll probably speak to this, but on Sunday, Father's Day, I attended the 10-year anniversary of the Mono Pollinator Garden. I was a small portion of this. While I have never pulled a weed or planted a plant, as a representative of the town, I'm very happy to congratulate the volunteer group for the work that they've done. The continuation of work, and it's quite a beautiful garden if you get a chance to do a little walk. I think the town's in a small amount of debt to the pollinator group, and it was spoken a little bit by the mayor, and Deputy Nix was in attendance, and I'm not sure if I left to go finalize my Father's Day with the rest, but I did get my daughter out there. But Ralph, I think if you can pass this on, and I have said this before at the year-end parties or year-end get-together, but definitely the group of volunteers that have put together quite a unique and very impressive town experience on a very passive level.
Thank you. Melinda?
We've had a Rosemont Fire Board meeting recently, which things were going well. One of the things that came up there is that they've got some new young people doing the, not only the annual report, but they've got a newsletter coming. And so the question was, how do we make sure that our residents get that newsletter? Because we can't send emails and stuff. So we did get that, right? It was a spring newsletter from Rosemont. He said he delivered it, but I wonder whether we can put that into our rotation when it happens on the website. Because they're doing really good work. They're right on target. We are always wanting to recruit some more, but they've got some new firefighters starting, and we're up to speed. The big thing is whether the level of service that we want. And so at the moment, they're providing and are trained for what we need, but there is as it was one of the items in on Schedule A that we didn't speak to. There are other municipalities that have difficulty with that. They can't afford it, and they don't have the people. We in Rosemont are on track. And things are going along swimmingly. If anybody wants to swim on these hot days, your pool for you to swim in is the Center Deferred Recreation Complex. It's up and running, and the little kiddies are there at camp having fun. And I got a library board meeting tonight, and the agenda is showing that we are plowing through diligently because we have a new CAO there, Shannon O'Grady, plowing through all of the policies to make sure that the library is meeting the rules and regulations. And again, if anybody wants to go to a library, the Shelburne Library is your library to go to. That's it.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to break the order. Elaine, do you have any reports?
Well, just to add to what Melinda was saying, yes, we had a Rosemont District Fire Board meeting. The association, they have an association, and the association chair came to present that they're investigating looking at creating a warming center. So they're in talks with the county about that. They had 3 trainees who are now finished, so that's awesome. And they have 5 new recruits. There will be a fall grad and service recognition event, so we'll let you know about that when we get to it. And they've also finalized all of the medical requirements for providing emergency medical responders. And yes, Melinda mentioned the newsletter, so it was said that they have it digitally and that they digitally can share it with municipalities, and then we can make that available. So that would probably come to you, I guess. Andrew.
Thank you. Fred?
Anyway.
Oh, sir.
So that's me.
I guess the big news is John and I will be going to a county meeting on Thursday, and we will start doing a thorough review of all the services the county provides. This is quite a big exercise. And as you probably already know, we will have a new CAO coming on July 15th. The other news I have is that be prepared sometime this summer, or maybe going into the fall, because of all the things happening with conservation authorities, we actually will pass a draft budget for 2027 sometime this summer, and we have to have it approved before we disappear. The other thing I wanted to let you know, I know you can't all see this, but the Credit Valley now has a new member. Her name is Tilly. She's a lab, and in this film, she's meeting the board members. She has been trained by this academy that's in Beaton. They usually train police dogs. Very thorough training. She can sniff out invasive species. Right now, she can do 3. I forget them. One of them is that crayfish that they found. One of them is something to do with oak trees. But she can do either animal or plant matter. Right now, she can do, I think, 3 scents. The Credit Valley has taken possession of the dog with 2 employees trained who have been trained to handle her, and she will learn more scents as she goes. She's just a lovely dog, very friendly, and we had about a half an hour demonstration of what she can do. I think that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Ralph?
Thank you. Mike very generously commented on the pollinator garden. This was the 10th anniversary, and we decided that we'd like to celebrate it and make a little bit of noise. There is a booklet made up for the 10th anniversary, and I'll bring a few of them in next week so you can have a look at them. We very much appreciate the support of the staff. I very much appreciated you coming, Mike, because it really tells everybody that this is an important event, that you're present. And the mayor spoke, and it was really nice to have your support as well, Mayor Krim, thank you. So we're going ahead with some changes at the Pollinator Garden. We're increasing the educational activity. We now have a made in Mono land acknowledgement. That was a challenge, but I think it was a fruitful one. And we will be doing some modifications to the landscaping. The problem here is that trees grow, and eventually they will take over the garden, and it'll be a forest. So that's one of the items, and we'll be trying to look ahead and see what we'd like it to look like in 10 years' time and make modifications. The other thing that's happening at the garden is that the Laura Ryan pergola is under construction. We've had a major donation of farm beams by Matt Donor, and these will be the main posts for the pergola. I think they're going to be spectacular. So the planning is to go ahead, the construction to go ahead. Hopefully it'll be finished sometime in mid-July if everything goes well. The pergola is a part of three groups are involved. The family are involved, the town's involved, and the pollinator garden's involved. So all three of these have to sort of say okay about everything we do, and that's going ahead very well. At the moment, there's going to be it's up to the family to come up with a suggested plaque. A plaque will be created that'll have some permanence, and we'll all have a look at that at the town here as well as at the council. Be sure we're happy with that, and I'm sure we have some useful input. And we're getting help from the town with particularly with equipment to do some of the heavier things that to try and save everybody's back. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you. And my only report is to compliment the pollinator garden volunteers once again for all the hard work that they do. It was very gratifying to meet people there who, frankly, were there for the first time. I met a couple who said, we've driven past so many times, and we had no idea that this was all back there. So your fame and fortune is widespread and spreading wider. Anyways, thank you. So there is a motion on the floor to accept Schedule A. I'll call the question. Oh,
I think we did that.
we did it. I need to call the vote. Any opposed? It passes. Okay. Any notices of motion? Seeing none. Any in-camera items?
No in camera?
No in camera? So I have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Mono in Session 11, 2026, held on 23rd of June, 2026, that it be signed by the Mayor and Clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that? Deputy Mayor Nix, seconded by Councillor Madill. Any opposition? Seeing none, that motion carries. And finally, I have a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 12:25 p.m. Moved by Councillor Davey, seconded by Councillor Madill. Any opposition? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, Elaine.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.